An entitled Karen demands that I share all of my cookies that were meant for my friends with her daughter, who literally is walking up right now to take it from me. But instead of giving into this stupid Karen's demands, I decided to get some revenge by making this Karen look incredibly stupid in front of her kid, teaching her a lesson that I don't think she will ever forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. So today was my first time visiting a Crumble Cookies, and I bought 4 huge cookies to try and share with my friends. On my way home, I decided to enjoy the cookie that I had gotten for myself. I was sitting at one of the picnic tables where my condo is, and of course, my neighbor's friend shows up out of nowhere, who is, by the way, the entitled parent of this story. And I know they're entitled because, trust me, this is not the first time I've encountered her. So I'm looking at my phone and I'm eating my cookie, basically doing as many errands on my phone as I can, when suddenly I hear this entitled parent open her mouth. "Look at that, Olivia, there's 3 giant cookies in there." And at this point, the entitled mom is pointing to my box of cookies. "Why don't you go ahead and pick out one that you like? As we all know, it's very important to learn how to share with others. And this lady didn't share with you the last time we saw her. Maybe she's learned her lesson." Now, for a bit of backstory, the last time I encountered this woman, I had 2 candy canes because my blood sugar level was low, and I was on my way to a doctor's appointment because I am type 1 diabetic. I obviously did not give the child one of my candy canes because at the time, I needed it as a life-saving medicine. Anyways, I look up and this entitled mother is folding her arms and giving me the most smug look ever. Her kid then comes running up to grab a cookie out of my box, but I'm faster, and I immediately close the cookie box. And when I did this, the little girl seemed really shocked. The mom then lets out the most obnoxious grunt. "Oh, come on, you don't need all those cookies. You didn't even share with her the last time you saw her. I'm trying to teach her manners and sharing. We share when we have more than what we need." Well, I look at the little girl, ignoring the mother, and I say to her, "Today I'm going to teach you another very important lesson. Can you please listen carefully?" The cute little girl nods and I say to her, "Listen, you should never take food from a stranger. You should only take food from people you know, because for all I know, there could be something that you could be allergic to in these cookies, and that might make you very sick. And I don't want to give you something that might make you sick. I mean, you don't want that either, right?" The little girl then nods her head and I smile at her. I also say, "Another thing I learned in life is that sometimes we can't always get what we want. So you might want one of my cookies, but for all you know, I have other people that I'm going to be sharing them with. And then they will be sad that they didn't get a cookie. We should always ask before taking things from someone else." I then tell her I'd be happy to share a piece of my candy with her if she asked me nicely the next time I see her, and if her mom can confirm that there's nothing in it that might make her have an allergic reaction. The little girl then smiles at me, says okay, and then thanks me. Well, after I did that, the look on the entitled mom's face was priceless. I think she probably would have slapped me upside the head, but I was using my wheelchair at the time because I had a flare-up, so thankfully that wouldn't have happened. And I don't know why, but it looks especially bad if you hit somebody using a wheelchair. Even more so if you do it in front of a large group of people, which there are plenty of people outside enjoying the nice weather today. I got enough satisfaction in not only teaching that kid lessons that she needs to learn, but then just by watching the entitled mother storm off and drag her daughter back into one of the other surrounding buildings. And yeah, I wasn't lying. I did get the cookies to share with my brother and friends. Perhaps if they had asked me nicely, I wouldn't have mind sharing the one giant cookie I had bought for myself. But both times I've encountered this entitled mom, she has just told her kid to take something from me without even asking. That poor kid is going to grow up on the wrong path if she thinks she can get away with that kind of stuff. However, if the kid does happen to ask me nicely the next time I see her, I will follow through on my promise. I usually do have low blood sugar candy to spare on me, and I'll give her one of my little bags of Skittles if she really asks for it. But I'm seriously so sick of crazy entitled parents, and I'm glad this woman doesn't live here. I don't want to have to encounter her more than every once in a while, because this lady is the opposite of Mary Poppins, as she is very unpleasant in practically every single way possible. Oh man, I can't imagine being in that scenario because I do not think I would handle that well. Seriously, this entitled Karen walked up and was like, "You're gonna share with my kid whether you like it or not." And it's like, dude, I need this candy to live, not because I'm like giving it out for free. This is not Halloween, are you kidding me right now? So personally, I think you handled this really well, much better than what I would have done, because this Karen was completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk doesn't let us stay at his Airbnb house, even though we booked it weeks in advance. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only getting a full refund and a free place to sleep, but I also got this guy banned from the app altogether. Here's what happened. So in around 2019, I had a friend coming to visit for St. Patrick's Day. Now, I'm Irish, but he's actually from Hong Kong. Given that I'm local, I said I would take care of booking accommodations, etc. And when I went on, of course, as usual, everything was like $half a grand. I mean, welcome to Dublin. And obviously, things were maxed out due to it being Paddy's weekend. but I found one spot in Blackrock, which isn't the city center, but it is only a few stops away from the Dublin area rapid transit. And on top of that, this place was going for $68 per night. So I booked it right then and there. Well, the following morning, I got a notification from Airbnb saying the host wanted to up the price to $288, and if I would accept that. I clicked no, and I figured, okay, well, he's already accepted our booking, and I don't have to say yes to this. I then waited a few weeks until the weekend in question, and then it came along. My friend landed in Dublin Airport, we made our way to Blackrock, got to the door, rang the doorbell, and then nothing. There was no car in the driveway, and nobody was home. We hung around for 40 minutes until the host arrived, and he literally wouldn't even look us in the eye. I said, hi, we've booked to stay here for this weekend, and he mumbled something about how no one was staying there, and that he was sorry, and then he went inside. Well, with that, I got straight onto Airbnb. They offered us our money back, and I said no. That's not good enough. Everywhere else is half a grand. What are we gonna do with $68? So they offered us double, and I still said no. We need a place to stay. So they booked us into a lovely house elsewhere that was closer to the city center. But you know what? That's not all. I made an official complaint about the host and how he screwed us over. And you know what? They actually booted him off the application. So for trying to fleece a couple of 20-something lads, he had to stop renting his place out entirely. Well, I'm a petty guy, so every couple of months I randomly think about this and I check to see if he's back online yet. And as of May of 2025, he still is not. So overall, I've cost him about 6 years of Airbnb rent and counting, and truly, this is something that you just love to see. Dude, I would be so pissed if I was in the original poster shoes. Imagine booking an Airbnb for the price that, it was advertised for, only to then show up and be told that no, you don't actually have a reservation. Like, I would go bananas. There's no way I would put up with that. So I really love the fact that they got kicked off the app, because truly, if that's the way they're going to conduct their business, then they should not be on Airbnb in the first place. A water main burst in my school, resulting in my classroom filling up with water. But once I started dumping the water out of my room through the window, I not only got in trouble with my supervisor, but I also lost my job as a high school science teacher. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I'm a high school science teacher, and a few years back, a water main burst in my classroom. I saw the drain was clogged, so I sent the majority of the class to the library and grabbed some students I knew could handle themselves from coaching wrestling and football. I had them help carry water to the window in trash cans while I called building and grounds. A few minutes later, a maintenance guy came in and yelled at me, told everyone to leave, and that we should let the water fill the class until the pressure cleared the blockage in the drain. Now, the water pressure did not clear the blockage in the drain, and the whole hallway on both sides flooded, as did the hallway beneath it. Mold eventually grew, and we had to shut down over 40 classrooms for over a year. There wasn't enough classroom space, and we had to split the student body in half and have one group come in at 5 o'clock in the morning to 11, and the other come in at 11 to 5. The repair cost the district over $15 million. All spring sports were canceled for the year. The next year's fall sports were canceled too, and in a lot of ways, the district never recovered. I also got a load of crap from my supervisor, a VP, and the school principal in the immediate aftermath, and wasn't brought back the next year. I then got offered my old job back when they realized how much damage I was trying to prevent. But at this point, I was already moving on to greener pastures, because trust me, I do not need that kind of energy in my life. Okay, dude, whoever's like the ground supervisor for that school is a complete idiot. This guy was really like, oh no, we need to flood everything. The pressure's gonna fix the drain. But it's like, dude, there's literally water in my classroom. Why the heck would I keep that there? Just dump it out the window. Like, are you stupid? Like, that's so ridiculous, the fact that they would freak out on you about that. Not to mention your supervisors and the principal being like, yeah, you've got to go. We've got to fire you now. And then once they realized that you were not the problem, they try to be like, oh yeah, you can come back for your job. Like, if anyone pulled that kind of crap on me, I would never go back. Like, there's no way in the world. Because if they can fire you over something as stupid as this, then trust me, they can absolutely do it again. Am I the jerk for refusing to tip a street musician who did a supposed private performance for me and my date, despite the fact that I never asked for it or wanted it? Because right now, my date is making me feel really guilty and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so last weekend, I went on a 4-day trip to Madrid. On Friday, I met a guy in my hotel, let's call him Matt for the sake of the story, who asked me out for lunch on Saturday, and I said yes, and I was quite excited for it. Matt chose a cute little outdoor cafe and eatery, which really was so perfect. The vibes were there and everything was flowing nicely. Well, that was until a guy with a guitar showed up. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I don't like street performances. I'm on a date or in this historical place because I want to focus on the people I'm with and the setting I'm in. I don't mind if someone's doing their thing too, musically or otherwise, but I don't want to stop and watch them, and I certainly don't want them coming up to me. So anyways, this guy approached and he just started singing in English and improvising a tune about me and my date. He even asked Matt our names so he could work them into the song. Matt seemed to be enjoying enjoying the performance, but I was just waiting for it to end and kind of annoyed that we'd been interrupted. Well, after about 5 minutes, the guy finished and then asked for a tip. Now, Matt gave him one, but I politely declined, as honestly, I would have just paid for this not to happen in the first place. Well, the performer started getting upset with me, and then Matt started agreeing with him, saying that we had been given a really cool private experience, and it's only right to tip the guy for it. But you know what? I held my ground. But needless to say, the date was ruined, and we awkwardly rushed through the rest of it. And now I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Like, yes, this performer gave us his time and effort into making a custom song, and he wasn't bad. But also, I didn't want or ask for it. I wouldn't be doubting myself, except for Matt, who otherwise seems like a really reasonable guy, and was very much on the side of the street performer. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this 100% sounds like a scam. I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat for a second because I seriously think something's going on here. What if, and just hear me out, what if Matt was on the side of the performer because they worked together on this kind of scam? Like seriously, you meet this guy on a 4-day trip to Madrid, you agree to go on a date with this guy, and then you just so happen to end up right where this performer is? Like, come on, this seems like a massive setup altogether. Like, why else would Matt be like, no, you have to give the performer money? Like, come on. It's like, dude, I don't have to do anything. And you know what? Even if Matt isn't in on it and this isn't some kind of like weird conspiracy, a performer walking up to you while you're literally on a date and trying to drag you into their performance is like akin to that one guy on the side of the street who's trying to wash your window and be like, okay, you gotta pay me now. It's like, no, dude, go away. You're literally disturbing me. This is no longer a performance and it's slowly becoming like a police matter. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to tip this stupid musician, because I'm right there with you. I don't like street performances either, especially if they're gonna be pushy and try to beg you for money in the way that this guy did. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories, because we would love to see what you have to say. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for snapping at my mom's friend after she demanded that I give her a ride home? Here's how it all happened. Okay, to start things out, I went to my parents for a celebration party today. These parties happen several times a year, and a group of family friends gather, not always at my parents' house, but mostly. This has been going on since I was a child, and a main group remains the same. A couple years back, a lady started coming to those parties, not always, but quite often, and I have to say I do not like this lady. She's in her 70s, she's really annoying, inserting herself into every conversation, and yet manages to bring nothing into it. She keeps coming out with nonsense facts, etc., and it gets worse as she drinks. I just genuinely cannot stand her, but I am polite and I'm civil, and I try to ignore her for the sake of peace. Well, today my mom approached me asking if I could maybe give her a ride home, even though she lives half a mile from my parents' house, and this is because plans for her to stay overnight fell through, all due to out-of-town unexpected guests. And you know what? Initially, I said no. As night progressed and people kept getting drunker, I decided to leave. I had a full day, I was tired, and still had half an hour drive home. Plus, my dog was alone most of the day. Well, my mom then pulled me aside and started guilt-tripping me into taking the lady home, as apparently she mentioned earlier to my mom she will ask me for a ride. My mom was pleading, and I finally said, okay, well, let's see if she asks me. I gathered my things and I went to put them outside, and the lady was out smoking with a couple of people, and she says to me, oh, I didn't know that you would be leaving so soon. I'm going with you. I then said to her, excuse me, was that a question or a statement? She then shrugs her shoulders and says, it's a statement. It is only half a mile. I'm coming with you. So I responded by saying, well, it would be great if you could actually ask me, as I'm not a taxi service, nor do I work for you. This lady looked at me and said, but I am a straightforward person. But at that point, I cut her off and I said, that's not being straightforward. That is showing a lack of respect. You should ask someone for a favor. Don't tell them they are doing it for you. My mom then chimed in and the lady was laughing, which I took as a nervous laugh for being called out, and the last couple of sentences of the conversation got repeated. She then said to me, I'm sorry if I offended you. And I said back, well, that would be better without the if. My mom then took her side, as she has a tendency to push me towards disrespect and being a doormat for people that she needs or wants around her. I also have to add that I didn't yell, but I was very firm. I have people in my life I've been friends with forever, and even my parents I ask if I can come over or get a ride if they can help, and I would never just tell them that they're going to be doing something for me. I am sure I will be getting the cold shoulder from my mom for weeks to come, but in this case, am I the jerk for snapping at this lady? Because right now, I'm honestly still pretty frustrated. Before we go any further, the original poster actually gave us an update to what happened in this story. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to read and comment. I've been reading Reddit for a while, and I thought, why not ask for an opinion? To answer some questions in the comments, I have no idea how the lady got to the party. I also did not give her a ride in the end, as she never asked for one. Distance did not make a difference. Even if it was 20 miles or 10, I would have done it if only she had asked me and not told me that she was coming along. Even if she turned her statement into a joke and said something like, yeah, of course course I'm asking, as people can get arrogant when they're drunk. I still would have done it. And by the way, this is not the first situation where this lady dumps her transportation problems literally on everybody else, or even makes some kind of rude or entitled comment. Many of you commented on my mom, and you were completely right. She does have emotional issues and narcissistic traits, and does sacrifice my well-being and my time just to accommodate her friends by using guilt-tripping and manipulation. And trust me, that's an entire story in and of itself, and it took me years to start saying no. For years, I tried talking, asking her for therapy, sending articles, but nothing works. So finally, I focused on myself, and it is a continuous work. However, I no longer see these situations as a favor to her, but rather another attempt to control. I do know she fueled the situation, but in the end, that is another story and another relationship. I've also seen comments of why I hang out with my parents' friends, and I guess I need to clarify because I never said they were only my parents' friends. These are family friends that I've known since childhood or for decades, and this lady is new to the group, and I am in no way close to her or just don't even really know her that well. So I can assure you, I have plenty of my own friends and parties. Now, for those of you saying that I was the jerk or rude, I don't disagree, but I have tried many other ways in these situations, and whether it's talking or keeping the peace, or even just saying no does not work with people like that, but instead sets up for bad treatment in the future. Quick and firm but kind of rude responses seems to have the best results, despite the age, the gender, or whatever else is another reason that might cause them to try and work me over. Now, when it comes to an update from a friend today, someone was coming to pick up one of the friends from the party and actually took this entitled lady back home, but this time she did ask for a ride. So in the end, I would like to think that maybe she got the point and hopefully will change her attitude in the future. Okay, I love this story so much because it feels like a masterclass in how to set boundaries. You're never in the wrong for being like, no, I'm not gonna do that, and you're being rude. Because in my opinion, some people just need to be called out. Like seriously, some people just don't know where the line is, and they feel like they can push someone until they get what they want. And that's really messed up. I don't care who you are, like that is not okay. So good for the original poster for setting some clear boundaries and putting this entitled Karen in her place, because her crappy attitude is something that no one should ever have to deal with. Am I the jerk for not helping my girlfriend when she claimed she was being stalked by my exes? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my girlfriend have been in a relationship for about 4 months, but before that, we were best friends for about 4 years. And when I say best friends, I mean it. We would be with each other 24/7, and she would tell me everything that happened to her. During those 4 years, I've been in many relationships, but for this story, only 2 are important. When I was about to turn 21, I was in a relationship with a girl that I will call Shannon for the sake of the story. Shannon and I dated for about a month and a half, but we realized that we have different goals in life, and she did not want to be with someone who has different goals, since she is religious and doesn't want to be in a relationship if it will not end in marriage. I respected her decision, and we broke up on what I thought was good terms. Then, about 2 months later, I got into another relationship with a different girl who I will call Mia. Mia and I dated for like a month, but we really rushed into it and things just didn't work out. We realized that we were just not that compatible, and maybe we could work as friends, but nothing else. We then just broke it off, and I didn't really date anyone until this point. When me and my girlfriend got into a relationship, things were great for 3.5 months, but she became really distant lately, and I was getting worried. This never happened before, so I asked her, okay, what's up? Are we okay? And she said that we're good, but then like 2 days later, she became distant again. Now, obviously something was going on, so I asked her again, and she admitted that she was being stalked. Well, I became really worried, and I asked her more about it. I was expecting to hear something like, oh, she was being followed home, but what she said really surprised me. She told me that Shannon and Mia were stalking her. I then asked her how, like what do they do? And she told me that they were liking my stories and looking at them, but they don't even follow me. And honestly, I did not think it was anything serious, because how is that stalking? Oh, they looked at your stories. I mean, how will you sleep at night? And that's when I told her I thought it was more serious than that. After I said that, she became really mad. She told me, how do you think it would feel if my exes were looking at your stories and if they always liked them? But seriously, first of all, why are you so mad about them looking at your story? It's not that deep. Okay, they look at your story. And what happens then? Absolutely nothing. And also, the block button is right there. Just hit that one button and then every single problem is finished. Secondly, if I was getting stalked like that by her exes, I really would not care. Oh no, 2 extra guys are looking at my story. Oh god, I'm being stalked. It just seems so internet addicted. Why is a big part of your day looking at who views your story and who likes them? It's just a shallow way of getting attention. I told her to just block them and then there would be no problems. But she does not want to do it because she doesn't want to have beef with random people. And it's like, what does that even mean? I'm so confused right now. Like, okay, you don't want to fight with random people over this, but you decide that it would be amazing if you got mad at your boyfriend about this and told him to roll over dead at the end of the argument? I just don't think it's that big of a deal. She has 2 extra people liking her stories, stories and is making it sound like it's the end of the world. Also, the two girls wouldn't do anything to her in real life. One of the girls is religious and the other one is like 45 kilograms and she's maybe 150 centimeters tall. The reason that I think they are stalking her is because they think that me and my girlfriend got into a relationship way sooner, since we were always together and we just now made it public. So they think that I cheated on both of them with my current girlfriend, which isn't true at all. But seriously, how do I go explaining that to them? What does she even want me to do? Go DM my ex to stop looking at my girlfriend's profile, which is public by the way? Like, get a grip. It just seems so unnecessary. Just block her and get it over with. We haven't talked for about 3 days because of this, and I'm starting to worry if I might be the jerk in this situation, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, no, your girlfriend is not being stalked, and I don't think there's any problem here. Like, seriously, just block the people and get it over with. I'm 100% on the original poster's side. Yeah, it seems like the exes are trying to like start some kind of drama and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna follow everything that your new girlfriend's doing. But like, seriously, just block them and then it's done. Like, what's the problem here? If you really feel like they're following you and you want me to do something about it, like if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would happily message the exes and be like, look, leave my girlfriend alone. I never cheated on you. There was nothing like that. And I'm happy with my girlfriend, so leave her alone. But to sit there and be like, oh, I'm being stalked by your exes, what do I do? And then not like the answer that you give, in my opinion, is really short-sighted. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think the way your girlfriend is acting, in my opinion, is a little bit over the top. My toxic, entitled roommate is constantly trying to take over the house and set rules that nobody wants to follow, demanding that we listen to all of her rules all the time. But after dealing with this for so long, me and my roommates have banded together and have decided that if she doesn't straighten up her act, then we're going to get her evicted. Here's what happened. So I moved in July to a 5-people apartment in a small Spanish city, and it's one that's known for its university life. I'm a student, and so are the other 2 girls that arrived in August, while the other guy is working, and we're all in our 20s. The issue is the 5th roommate, an adult American woman in her 40s, and she moved in late August. We don't really know her age or her specific job, just that she's from California, but also she's been nothing but a nuisance. When I knew that we would be living with an adult woman, I worried that instead of trying to cohabitate, she would try to behave like the head of the household and try to impose her own rules. And so she does. When she wants something done, it has to be when she says so. She doesn't agree with chore division and hates our leniency with those, and has also been complaining nonstop about storage arrangements when there is plenty of space except for the fridges, which were a complete headache to administer. She also only speaks English and barely makes an effort to communicate in Spanish. Now, I'm fluent in English, but my other roommates are not, so that part of basic communication just doesn't work well. But what we all agree on is that she has been fixated on me for some reason. It started with fat-phobic remarks. She became super aggressive with me and would try to command my own storage space. Since I own loads of ingredients, I offered it for free if others would need it, but they refused, since they had their own storage chosen and divided. She said I couldn't use more than one cabinet, but the thing is, she uses 2 different cabinets. She also uses 2 bathrooms and doesn't follow her own chores. It's a common thing for her to say, oh, you have to follow the rules, but the rules don't apply to me. It then became a constant aggression with me, but I gray-rocked while also losing my patience. Otherwise, my other roommates are sweet. They're responsible and respectful, and we always talk and agree on things, and no single problem has arisen between us that couldn't be fixed with a quick conversation. It came to a head while I was using the kitchen, and I was calmly cooking while listening to music in my headphones. I like to cook, and I always clean up after myself. She barged into the kitchen, accusing me of occupying loads of space, even though there's plenty of space. I mean, 3 people can cook at the same time in the kitchen. She then demanded that I stop spending time there, while also calling me a hog. Now, at this point, I lost my patience. I raised my voice and I laid it on her. I called her obnoxious and disrespectful, stating that she was demanding and unreasonable, that she's been nothing but a problem ever since she arrived, and I then forbade her from speaking to me until further notice. My other roommates heard the argument, and they sided with me, which further annoyed her. She then tried to establish new rules, like not using the kitchen beyond 6 o'clock p.m., as well as informing when visits are coming, or a mandatory common lunch each week. Well, the resounding no in unison clearly bothered her, and she then just shut herself in her room. Ever since then, she's been avoiding us, and we're all just doing the same. She barely comes out of her room and doesn't speak a word. Sometimes she says stupid stuff in the group chat, but she's just completely ignored or cut off. The agency that manages the flat is aware of the trouble, and we agree that if she persists after this period of silence, then she will be asked to leave. She's probably realized that she cannot force her will, and that we don't want to deal with her. As for now, she's not acknowledged me at all, so at least she's respecting my wishes. And I don't feel bad, because my other roommates and I are a united front. We know how to deal with her, and I just hope she reflects and chooses the best thing for her. Either stay and behave or just leave. Now, the other thing that really bothers us is that she's awake at night, so we hear her in the kitchen making noise at 4 or 5 in the morning. But she complains if we make noise during the morning or midday because she's asleep. She usually sends passive-aggressive messages at those hours, requesting chores to be done as soon as possible, but we just say that we will do those on our timetable. She's laughed at one of my roommate's accent, mocking how she speaks, and she tries to manipulate the other girls by giving them gifts, which are just old clothing that she leaves on the doors. And when something didn't go her way, she'll say, "Oh, I've been so good with you, I give you gifts." And trust me, there are many more than this, but I really hope that I don't have to deal with her for very long. Yeah, that's an obnoxious roommate. And on behalf of someone who is from America, I'm so sorry you have to deal with one of our worst. This lady sounds like an obnoxious jerk. First of all, you guys are not kids. You're all in your 20s, you're adults. So for her to walk in and be like, "Okay, it's my way or the highway," like that's just really weird, and there's no reason to act like that. Like, come on. But also, it is incredibly obnoxious that she's literally sitting there trying to make all these demands all the time. Because seriously, who made her queen of the castle? Just because she's older than everybody doesn't mean she has like seniority. That is not how this works. So truly, I hope she does get evicted, because this sounds like a miserable roommate. And if I was in your shoes, I would want her gone as soon as possible. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by telling my boyfriend I wanted to break up just to try and win an argument. And now I really regret it because I lost a man that I love very much. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that I already know I messed up big time, but I just want to get this out. For a little background, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and right now I'm 4 months sober. So I obviously had a problem, and I ended up getting really sick, and my boyfriend had to take me to the hospital. For the first week, he stayed with me every day, but eventually he had to go back to work, and I was pretty upset because I didn't want to be alone in the hospital, and we argued about it a lot. Then I found out after a few days that he had missed a week of work after he left the hospital. We had been texting, but he hadn't responded as much as usual, and his cousin had called me to ask if he was okay, and I didn't know that he had been missing work. So I called him, and he sounded bad, like really sick. He said he hadn't smoked cigarettes or the herb in over a week, and he hadn't been able to eat or drink anything without getting sick. I told him to go to the doctor, but he said we couldn't afford it since I was already sick in the ICU. Now, I was pretty worried, and he really did sound terrible. He lost his voice, and I could hear him puking over the phone, so I called an ambulance to our room. After a few more days, he had gotten better, and we were talking like everything was okay and I wasn't in the hospital, and he wasn't working 7 days a week up to 14 hours a day. He came and visited me on the weekends after work, and sometimes on the weekdays while he was having to work those, and I could tell he was always tired, but we argued a little because I didn't want him to leave me alone at the hospital all the time. Then he gets a letter from out of state from the CPS stating that his kids got taken from their mom months ago, and no one told him until then, and they wanted to give him custody of his kids, who he had not seen in 2 years, and he was beyond excited. He got to talk to them for the first time in years, and he cried after he got off the phone telling me about it. Then came the big thing. He wanted to stay together, but wait for me to move back in until his court was over because I was an alcoholic, and I had current medical history and problems because of it. It caused a huge argument. I was so mad because he used to drink worse than me, to the point where he's throwing up uncontrollably and had the shakes when he quits drinking. I felt like it was unfair. I didn't want to not be with him when I got out of the hospital, even though he said he would visit me at my mom's or rehab. We fought about it every day for 2 weeks. He kept telling me to grow up and that his kids come first, and that if it was the other way around, he would do it no questions asked so that I could get my son. And you know what? He would have. I know that. He worked and took care of me for a year while I spent all his money and got sick. He even gave me sponge baths in the hospital and called my son so I could talk to him because he thought I was going to pass away. Like, I know I was beyond stupid, but I told him if I had to stay somewhere else, we were breaking up. It's always worked before when I wanted to get what I wanted, but this time he just said fine. He told me to do what I wanted then, and that I could be single since I'm always saying it, and he didn't have time to deal with this right now. And honestly, I didn't know what to say. I was mad. He always just let me have my way, and he probably shouldn't have. And now I just don't know what to say. The last thing he told me was that he's sorry and that he really loves me, but he couldn't do this right now, and he hopes that I stay sober. Now, it's been 4 months and I'm in sober living, living, but I don't have a job and I haven't found a new place to stay. He still asks my mom about me and he hasn't found anyone else. He has his kids back and they're all doing good. And I really am hoping that he's doing good and that his kids are safe now. I just wish I was there. I miss him and I miss how he would always hold me when I didn't feel good or how he made me dinner after he got home from work. I miss his kids and I wish I could hug them all one more time. I miss how he would smile whenever I pulled his hair out of his face or when I rubbed his chest. I want to talk to him so bad, but I have him blocked on everything because he told me to lose his number and that he didn't want to see me again after our last fight. He always told me that he's never felt like he did about me with anyone. He took me back after I left him for someone else for a year when his ex ran off with his kids. I messed up so much with him and I never deserved how great he treated me. I've never had that before. Breakfast in bed when we didn't work, flowers whenever he got paid, presents just because he wanted to, watching my favorite shows I know he hated and pretending he loved them. I complained at him all the time about stupid stuff and he always just stayed. He held me and rubbed my hair when I was so mad at him and I even punched him and gave him a black eye. I just took it all for granted thinking that he would always be there. I always thought that because he loved me, he would stay no matter what. I didn't deserve him. I tried to make him pick between me and his kids. Everyone in the world telling me how bad I messed up won't ever make me feel as bad as the look on his face when we broke up. Like it was the hardest choice he made. He always told me that the only things he wanted was a family, a house, and a wife that loved him. And I always wanted someone to be there no matter what, and he was doing that. I just got emotional and angry during my withdrawals, and I took it out on him. There were times I treated him so badly, and he just took it. And I'll never find someone like that ever again. I didn't deserve it the first time, and he deserved better. He told me he hopes I get better and that I do better in my next relationship, and that I find someone that treats me how I want to be treated. But who says that after someone breaks up with them? I just hope he finds someone that can be what he wants them to be and treats them as great as he treated me. I'm going through these steps and talking about all of it in a group, and didn't realize how selfish I was being. I just wish I could apologize and tell him how sorry I am, but that will not fix anything. I just have to try and get better and be better. He is the one person I can't talk to during step 9 because I do not deserve his forgiveness. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it straight up. You definitely messed up. It sounds like you have a really good guy that was willing to have your back, and you quite literally took that for granted. Like even saying the words, "I'm gonna break up with you if you don't do this or that," like that alone is so bad it's not even funny. And the fact that you did that more than once must have been like obnoxious for him. And I get it, you feel bad and you see what you did was wrong, but seriously, what you did really was wrong. And at least for the sake of his happiness, I really do hope that he doesn't have anybody like you in the future. And I mean that as nicely as I possibly can, because this story absolutely paints you in a bad light, and I hope that guy finds someone much better than what you gave him on a daily basis. Am I the jerk for telling my wife to take time off of work if she wants to take time for herself? Because right now she's angry with me for taking on a new job, despite the fact that we agreed that the pay increase would be worth it. And right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I have been married for 12 years and we have 2 kids. We both work full time, but I have got promoted about 3 months ago that required a change to my work hours. I used to have the same standard Monday through Friday hours as my wife, but my new role has me working 10-hour shifts Thursday through Sunday. This promotion came with a pretty substantial pay raise as well. My wife and I discussed how my change in hours would affect our family's day-to-day lives, but we both agreed it would be worth it for the additional income. I use my time off Monday through Wednesday to do pretty much all the family shopping, as well as doing errands, cleaning, and laundry, and I've even been able to make substantial progress on some long put-off home projects. I also cook dinners and prep weekly lunches for the kids and my wife. The additional income is becoming noticeable as well, as we haven't had this much in our savings account in years. A few weeks ago, my wife started griping about my new job. She hates that I'm working all weekend because that means that she's with the kids the entire time. She complains that she goes from working all week to solo parenting on the weekends. Both our kids are in activities on weekends, so she has been doing that by herself as well. We talked about ways to ease some of the weekend stuff from her, such as getting a babysitter, carpooling to kids' activities, taking the kids to their grandparents, and then some. But she still complains that all of the legwork for those things will be done by her, all because I'm at work. She said that she feels like she never has any time for herself since my hours got changed. To try and alleviate this, I suggested that she make plans with friends to do something on Monday or Tuesday nights, and she did try but got frustrated when her friends were busy those nights and wanted to get together on weekends. This led to another argument with her telling me that she hates my new job and that I need to look into changing my hours shoulders again. I told her that I've been trying everything to help ease the transition with my new job, but all I've been met with is hostility and frustration. I asked her if there's anything more I can do other than change my hours, and she told me no. She said she just hates that she doesn't get a break and that I have 3 days to myself. I started listing off all the ways I've been trying to make this easier and how much more money we are making, and she just cut me off and said to me that the money isn't worth it. I then got frustrated and I told her if she needs time for herself, then she should just use vacation time from work if she is not going to be reasonable and help me find a compromise. She then got even more mad and told me that I'm being a jerk. She then made me sleep in the guest room and told me that I can't come back to our bed unless I fix this. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I think I can see both sides of this, but I really have to side with the original poster here. From the sounds of it, it seems like this is a substantial increase in pay, and if they just find some kind of routine to make this work, this could be very advantageous for the both of them and their entire family. So to that end, I don't think the original poster is the jerk. And sure, things are really hard right now, and I can understand that she's like completely overwhelmed, but it really seems like she is unwilling to have any kind of compromise, and she is just refusing to listen to any other like alternative solution. And it's not like the guy can change his hours, like seriously, he just got this job. If he was like a year in, he could probably switch things up and work during the week, like that probably would be ideal, but he literally just started it. He can't change that around even if he wanted to. So in my opinion, I do not think that you're the jerk. Am I the jerk for asking my dad to not bring his girlfriend to a football game after he has completely neglected any kind of one-on-one time between the two of us ever since he started dating her? Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I'm an only child. My parents divorced 4 years ago, and I've always had a good relationship with my dad, though sometimes it's been a bit rocky. We've had a tradition going out to dinner every Friday, and I've always tried to maintain a close bond with him. In 2021, I befriended a lady by the name of June, who is a colleague of mine, and for reference, June is 45 years old. We weren't super close, but I considered her more than just a work friend. We had hung out, and at one point, I even asked her to lend me her credit card to buy us Lollapalooza tickets. In return, she asked to visit my family's island house, which I agreed to. I didn't think much of it when I later invited her and her daughter to the house with my dad driving us there. Well, it turns out my dad and June started dating shortly afterwards. They did ask for my permission at first, and I reluctantly said yes. But over time, I began to feel sidelined. June started coming to all of our outings, even to the point where my dad wanted to include her and her kids on our annual New Year's trip. Whenever I wanted to hang out with my dad alone, he would suggest that I tag along with them instead. By October, I had enough, and I told him how uncomfortable I felt. His response was that they were a couple now, and I needed to accept that they would always do things together. I wasn't asking him to choose between us, but instead just to have any kind of time alone with him. Fast forward to last Wednesday, and my dad called asking if he could bring June to our local football club game, which is something that's been a special tradition for us ever since I was a kid. Well, I said no, reminding him that this was supposed to be our thing. He pushed back, saying that he didn't want her to be alone on a Saturday night, but I told him again that my answer was still no. He then called me spoiled and bratty and said to me that he was bringing her anyways. But you know what? I stood my ground, saying that he could go with her, but don't pick me up. He then suggested that we could all have dinner afterwards, to which I said I'd rather go with one of my friends. He then proposed that we all go together, and I said no again. He finally said, okay, but I'm bringing her either way. Then, 5 minutes later, he called back saying, you know what, I'm not going. And since then, we haven't spoken. I tried calling on Friday to cancel our usual dinner plans, but he did not respond. He's currently living with June while she builds her new house, so they get to see each other every day. So is it too much to ask for him to go to the game with just me? Is it really such a tragedy for her to stay home for a couple of hours? Am I the jerk for wanting that one-on-one time with my dad? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think what you're asking is completely reasonable because your dad is seemingly finding every excuse under the sun to not spend any time with you. And I'm sure that you're happy that he is actually with June and they get to spend time together, but it seems like he's going overboard and just completely neglecting any kind of relationship with you. So on that end, I understand where you're coming from, and I can see why you're getting frustrated about everything going on. So overall, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think that your dad should do a better job of trying to reach out to you. I'm considering quitting my job as a restaurant server every single day, simply because it is one of the worst working environments I've ever experienced in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so admittedly, I've only been serving in a restaurant for about a month, but out of all the jobs I've held, this one stresses me out the most. When I began, I only had 2 days of training before I was thrown onto the floor. The first couple of weeks were fairly fairly rough, as I was acclimating to the pace and learning a lot of things on the fly. I dealt with extremely rude and entitled customers along the way, unlike any other retail job that I've picked up. One lady kept repeating that it was her birthday and said, "No tip, there's no tip," and actually ripped her check in half in front of me and the manager, all because I took a little too long from being green. But joke's on her because it was auto gratuity anyways. But ever since the first couple of weeks, I've dealt with a much lower amount of rude customers, probably partly because I've gotten much better and gotten the hang of things. Aside from that, I've quickly discovered that a lot of my coworkers seem fairly toxic. Most of them don't greet you, even when I smile and initiate first. Lots of gossiping amongst the girls, and plenty of private, personal things shared within earshot very often. I mean, people talk so much garbage. One of the chefs was very verbally awful to the servers as well when mistakes were made, no matter how small they might be. Since I was new to serving and made a number of mistakes out of pure ignorance, he decided to target me. Other servers told me it was normal and I should just tolerate it, but he was the only one doing that. He started out with scolding and ramped up to insults with me, but as soon as it got to that point, I had enough and basically said that we're gonna fight outside of work. And ever since then, he's been much quieter and much more cooperative with every one of the servers. But you know what? I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to warn another human being that treating others beneath them is wrong and that there are going to be consequences. I've also never dealt with this much toxicity within such a short period of time. It usually takes longer to unfold, but I guess the stressful environment accelerates that. I truly didn't understand why there were so many messed up people in the food industry until now. I started this because I wanted to work my way up to bartending, but my God, I'm considering rage quitting every single day that I work. Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from because I've dealt with every single one of those when I was working in the restaurant business. People are super toxic, they don't like working there, and you just happen to be the next person that they get to yell at because they hate their life. Like, that's been my experience, and sure, other people have great experiences working in restaurants, but I don't think I've ever had a good experience being a server, a busboy, or anything. So yeah, that kind of is what you're getting into, and I don't blame you for wanting to quit. Because unless you have a good staff and a good manager to keep things on track, then that job truly can be very miserable. My annoying, lazy coworker is constantly trying to force me to do his job for him. And after dealing with this for long enough, I decided to get some revenge by sabotaging a project he put in my hands, resulting in him not only taking the full blame for this project being messed up, but also by him being punished with temporary leave without any kind of pay. And I've honestly never been more satisfied to get back at my slacker coworker in my life. Here's what happened. So I work in an office with a guy that I will call Seth for the sake of the story. Seth is that coworker that everybody knows. He's lazy, always passing his work on to somebody else, and somehow always getting away with it. He will sit around on his phone or go to the bathroom every 10 minutes. He's the kind of guy who will show up late, make some lame excuse about traffic, and then disappear for lunch for 2 hours. For the past 6 months, Seth's favorite target has been me. He will send emails asking if I can help out with a project, but what he really means is that I need to do all the work while he takes the credit. I complained to my boss a couple of times, but somehow Seth always managed to weasel his way out of trouble. The final straw came when he passed off a major report that was due to a client in 2 days and dumped it on me at the last minute. One day I casually asked him if he was good with Excel, and he admitted that he didn't know much about it. So I thought to myself, okay, this is perfect. So the next time Seth tried to dump a bunch of spreadsheets on me to organize for his next report, I decided to agree. But this time, I embedded a series of hidden formulas into the documents. Now, these formulas didn't do anything important, just enough to mess with the numbers if someone didn't know how to check for hidden cells. It took me a little time, but I was careful not to make it too obvious. And the kicker here is that every time Seth tried to copy and paste the data into his report, it would scramble everything just enough to make it completely useless. Well, on the day the report was due, Seth slacked off just like usual, assuming that I had handled it like always. When the client called furious because the report was filled with nonsense numbers, Seth started to panic. He then rushed to fix it, but every time he tried to fix one part of the report, something else would break. He then came to me frantic, asking for help, and I just acted confused and said, "Oh, I don't know what happened, maybe it's a glitch." I gave him some vague advice, and I watched as he spent the entire day trying to salvage his mess. Our boss eventually found out, and Seth for once couldn't talk his way out of it. He got lambasted for screwing up such an important project and was put on temporary leave without any kind of pay. So I guess it's easy to say that he'll be doing his own work from here on out. Yes, that is some glorious revenge. I love everything about that. I can't stand coworkers who act like this because they literally make the work environment so unbelievably toxic. And it's all at everybody else's expense, like no one can be comfortable around this person because they're never doing their job and everyone suffers because of that. So I personally love this revenge because this guy absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I returned my parents' graduation gift to them after they gave me a Starbucks gift card, despite the fact that they know for a fact that I hate Starbucks and I'm actively protesting them? Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female and I graduated from college last May, and I received a $25 Starbucks gift card from my parents as a graduation gift. Now, I'm not someone who needs a huge gift or anything like that, but this really hurt my feelings for other reasons. Firstly, though my parents don't care about this, I've been participating in the Starbucks boycott for months now, and this has been incredibly easy for me for reasons that will become very obvious. Secondly, even if I wasn't boycotting it, I still wouldn't use the gift card. I don't like coffee or tea, and I've never liked coffee or tea. And this is something that my parents know, as I repeat it often when they ask if I want anything or to try their drink. I know that Starbucks sells food, but I honestly don't even like their food offerings that much either, especially not enough to go out of my way to get them. Lastly, my dad bought a bunch of gift cards from Starbucks for his company this past winter, and this was part of some raffle thing going on. So I'm almost certain that my parents gave me this gift card not because they went out of their way to get me something, but simply because they just had it lying around. And to be completely honest, that almost hurts more, because it shows that it wasn't even special and it was just convenient. It's now been over 4 months, and I still haven't used the gift card, and I have no plans to do so. And this is where I might be venturing into jerk territory. They don't even know how I feel about this. They sent it to me in a card, and technically don't even have confirmation that I received it. If I give it back to them, as my dad goes to Starbucks like every day so he definitely would use it, I know that they'll ask where I got it. I see no point in lying to them, and I would just tell them that it was their graduation gift to me. As far as I can remember, and I've racked my brain about this was their only graduation gift to me, so it wasn't a part of something larger. I want to reiterate again that I don't expect a lavish gift, but it hurt my feelings seeing how little thought my parents put into something for me. A selfish part of me wants them to know that it hurt me and wants to hurt them back in some kind of way. So would I be the jerk if I gave it back to them? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. First of all, they know for a fact that you hate Starbucks. You don't like that place. You really have never liked it. In fact, you're even actively protesting against them. So for them to give you a gift card to the place that you don't like, that comes off as incredibly petty, or they're just not paying attention to anything about you, which might be the worst scenario, so hopefully that's not what's happening. But also, if they think that's a graduation gift, then in my opinion, that is just insulting. Sure, you're not looking for anything lavish or expensive, but you're definitely looking for more than, I don't know, a gift card that was just lying around, because it really does sound like that's exactly what your parents did. They didn't have an actual gift for you, so they're like, okay, you can have a Starbucks gift card. Like, that would really upset me if I was in your shoes. So on that end, I don't think you would be the jerk to give it back to them, or even to explain to them that yes, this did hurt your feelings, because this gift card just comes off as thoughtless, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My toxic manager is one of the worst people to work for on planet Earth, as she is constantly putting us down and demanding that we work harder without ever lifting a finger to try and help us out. And right now, I feel like I'm at my breaking point, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I really need to get it off my chest about the shift I had tonight. We had one server down. My schedule is predominantly centered around our busiest times, so often I'm really busting my butt more than not. Every server was in the weeds tonight, and honestly, it's okay, it happens. None of us are strangers to that in the slightest. However, naturally, all of us servers are voicing our distress with each other, and some even to management. Now, does anyone else have that one manager that just doesn't care about your situation? They literally have no empathy, they're not a listening ear, they're literally nothing. They just scream, do more and more and more. Well, my establishment has this particular manager. She is very no-nonsense, and most of us dislike her, for the simple fact that she never gives any encouragement, positive words, or praise. Anything out of her mouth is criticism. In fact, if she has to do anything other than bark orders at us, then she's on our cases even harder. Like tonight, we once again were on a wait. Now, personally, I feel like as a customer, I would rather wait longer to be sat and have a server who is caught up and able to tend to me in an appropriate amount of time, rather than be sat and wait 10 minutes before the server can approach the table. Everyone is struggling with the tables they have, and said manager is barking at all of us to clear tables so we can basically be immediately sat again and remain in the weeds. At one point, she even said, "They're out of silverware up there, so whenever y'all have the time." And when she said this, my eyes bugged out of my head. I said, does it look like any of us have the time? To me, it's an impossible standard. No one is going to stop the 50 things we are all simultaneously doing to roll silverware. There is no way that's going to happen. Not when tables are already pissed at us because, for starters, they waited to be sat, and secondly, they have to wait more at the table because we are simply too slammed. People then started complaining that food is taking too long, which makes sense as the kitchen is backed up because we don't have many cooks. Like, the whole experience for every customer is poor, all because management would rather seat back to back instead of allowing a steady flow. We are all stressed out, and this particular manager, instead of shining any light or helping out, is basically telling us to shut up and do more and more. And this is the same manager who costed us our best dishwasher, all because instead of hearing him out, she told him to shut up or clock out and leave. And you know what? He left, and he didn't come back, and I just cannot blame him. I fear more will be lost now that one of our best managers is also leaving to manage somewhere else. You know, the cool, laid-back, not strict or pushy or mean type, the one that you love to see there. Well, now we're left with a manager who wouldn't care if a table attacked you, but instead demand that you go out there and bust your tables and roll silverware. You need to help 10 tables at a time. I can't tell you how many times she has basically called us unproductive by speaking to us in a condescending tone. She'll say stuff like, come on people, be productive. A full tray out, a full tray in. But regardless, I am so sick of this awful manager because her attitude is ruining this job for me. Yeah, I've had managers like this and they absolutely suck. They don't lift a finger to help out. Oh no, of course not. They're a manager. They can do whatever they want. They get to sit by the bar and watch you work while you're slammed and you have literally no time to do anything. And then have the gall to be like, okay guys, be more productive. Like, that stuff drives me crazy and I don't blame you for being frustrated. In my experience, it's also the same type of manager who only shows up and actually does something at their job when like a regional manager comes in to check on the place. And I know when I worked at a restaurant, that's exactly what my experience was. So hopefully you're able to find a different job than this because this sounds miserable. And as someone who's gone through this, I can wholeheartedly tell you that there are much better places to work than what you are currently dealing with. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for expecting support from my girlfriend after I just lost my childhood cat? Here's what happened. So this morning started off with me and my girlfriend being affectionate, but then things quickly took a turn. The day before, our family cat, which we've had since I was 4 years old, had become seriously ill. And when I went out this morning, the cat could no longer move, and my mom and I understood that it was time. My girlfriend could see that the cat was in bad shape. After a while, my girlfriend went to my room while my dad woke up. Meanwhile, the cat was actively passing away and in a lot of pain. My mom, with all the love she had, wrapped the cat up gently and took it outside. I opened the door for her, and my dad came out and put the cat out of its misery. After they went outside, I went to my girlfriend with my dog, and I cried a bit in her arms. And that's when I had heard everything had finished. Now, I did not explain anything to my girlfriend right away. I just went to the bedroom and I cried more there. Eventually, I told her why I'd been crying, but she responded by saying she didn't really have any feelings about it, which made me feel like my emotions were being brushed aside. I was still grieving and struggling, so I went to look for my medication, as I do have depression, because I wasn't doing well, but I hadn't taken it yet. I told her that I needed time to process everything, and I asked if she wanted to do something together. Well, she didn't even look at me. She just said to me, well, as long as it's not a screen, but I remarked by saying, you're looking at a screen. But I said it calmly, not trying to start an argument. She was sitting there seeming indifferent, and I really felt unsupported. I told her that her remarks weren't helping, and that I was upset because the cat had just passed away. I tried to do something with her, but I felt ignored and pushed away like she didn't care. She didn't cuddle me or show any affection, and when I hit my head, all she said without even looking away from the screen was saying something like, oh, are you okay? So, feeling hurt, I left the room and I went to watch TV, waiting for her for about 8 hours. Eventually, she came out and sat with me and my mom for about 15 minutes, all before I went back to the room, only to find that all of her things were gone. She had left, and now my heart is completely broken. So was I wrong to take my time and see if she would support me? My parents asked me twice to go check on her, but I told them no because I was upset that she didn't seem to care about my feelings or realize that her actions were hurting me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk. You literally just lost your cat. Your dad had to put it down, and this is an awful situation. Like, in that scenario, you would think that this would be the easiest thing for your girlfriend to support you on. Like, seriously, this is not that hard to dial into. It's obvious that you were in pain and she should have been there for you. Now, would I have waited by the couch for 8 hours for her to come out? Absolutely not. I would have said something much sooner than that. I'm not really a fan of trying to test your partner or anything like that, but I think considering your emotional state and all that you were going through right then and there, I can understand where you're coming from and why you did it. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I really think your girlfriend absolutely should have been there for you. Am I overreacting for wanting to break up with my partner all because they refused to clean in a timely manner? Here's what happened. So me and my partner have been living together for a considerable amount of time now. Before that, I noticed that they had a problem keeping their spaces clean and organized, but I just chalked it up to possible undiagnosed ADHD and a lack of education regarding cleanliness. It's not exactly a situation where I think I can change them, but I did blindly trust their word about working on that. We have assigned chores, but I have been clear that it isn't a strict system. If one of us is unable to do their chores, the other can pick up their slack for the day. Reasons include being sick, being stressed, or just being tired. And I've picked up their slack before, even when the reason was just being forgetful, all without even telling them about it. And that's because it doesn't bother me to help them out. I made sure to assign the more daily chores to myself, just so I wouldn't overwhelm them. I have made lists, and I have let them know they present possibly as having ADHD symptoms, and I say that because I am diagnosed, and I then gave them ideas on how to work with it while they got a diagnosis. And yet, even still, if I'm unable to clean up the apartment in 1 to 3 days, it is absolute chaos. Dishes pile up and dust accumulates, there's weird smells and food crumbs everywhere, and that's all in 3 days. Now, I myself am unmedicated, and I can go through very low points. I do my best to get out of the slumps fast and make as little mess as possible to not overwhelm them, but when I do get out, or even when I'm in the middle of a very bad week, the house is a mess, and it takes almost 2 days to get it back to a decent state. At first, I thought we were both having a bad week, which is no biggie, just let them know and reset. But this has been a repeating situation every 1 to 2 months ever since we moved in together, and the conversations have escalated more and more to the point where I don't bother with being the bigger person and talking about it maturely, but instead I just let go and I berate them. I know it's wrong, but I'm so tired physically, mentally, and emotionally. I'm not sure if this is a boundary or an ultimatum, but I told them once if this keeps being a regular thing, I would break up with them. I love them, but my fatigue is growing bigger than my love. The reason we haven't broken up yet is because once I talk to them, they always show remorse and immediately go running to clean everything, though in that rush, they tend to make more of a mess in the process. Now, I haven't mentioned that because I didn't want to ruin their intentions with feedback about their cleaning, and because quite frankly, I can't afford it. We split rent and they pay some bills. I've done the math, and I wouldn't be able to do anything other than work and go home if I had to pay all the expenses myself. If it was only cleanliness, I think I would be okay. I would be tired, but at least it's manageable. But it's just an all-around lack of consideration for me and my time, followed by kick puppy dog eyes and I'm sorries and self-deprecation every time I speak my mind. I'm not going to bring out specific situations for the sake of ambiguity, but I feel neglected in every aspect of the relationship. It's making the whole go to work, go home, and then go to work again life seem not as bad. However, since their response is always to get to work and pick up their slack, at least for a few days, I feel like I'm not being patient enough. Aside from the reasons I listed before, I acknowledge that I can be short-fused and still believe they don't want to be like this, but don't have the tools to function like I have. Hence why I'm doubting if this urge to break up is just my own lack of patience or an actual red flag. So am I overreacting in this situation for wanting to break up? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, in my opinion, if you're saying that yes, I will break up with you if you don't clean up, then in my opinion, that is already a massive red flag. Because at that point, you've said it. You've basically given the ultimatum and you've let the cat out of the bag. But the thing is, I don't blame you in the slightest. If I had to live in a pigsty every single day, all because my partner didn't want to step up and do what they need to do, then I would lose my mind and be like, wait a second, this is not worth it. And sure, I understand where you're coming from, where you're like, listen, they might have ADHD and they don't know how to cope with this stuff, but unless they've gone to a doctor and gotten that diagnosis, I would not try to excuse away their lazy behavior. Because that's all this is really, it's just them being lazy. I don't see this as them having undiagnosed ADHD because nobody knows that except for a doctor. And I really feel like self-diagnosing them and giving them that excuse to not do anything around the house, in my opinion, is a horrible mistake. Like, that is not a good idea, and I don't think you should do that. So I don't think you're completely overreacting, but I also see your hesitancy with this because it sounds like you do care about them and you do want the best for them. And hopefully something can change in this situation because what you described honestly does not sound like a good time. Am I overreacting by my sister's constant jokes at my expense, as she is always saying something so horrible and demeaning about me or my appearance? Because right now I feel very lost and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my sister have never had a great relationship. When we were younger, she went through a really bad depression, which made us grow apart for a really long time, I started distancing myself from her because she would often hurt my feelings with comments and jokes about my appearance or personality traits. So recently we started going to the gym together, and in order to actually make some progress, I started bulking up. And to be completely honest, I used to be incredibly skinny, so I've gained quite a lot of weight at this point, and I still wouldn't consider myself bulky, but my sister and mother haven't stopped making comments on the fact that I've been eating a lot more. And honestly, they didn't really affect me since I'm used to receiving those types of comments, but recently I've been growing insecure on the fact that maybe I've actually started to look fat, even though I'm making a lot of progress at the gym, and it's all because of those comments and the looks. As a note here, my sister quit the gym and isn't disciplined at all when it comes to good habits. When it comes to comments and stuff like this, she criticizes me a lot, which makes me really insecure on the way that I dress, talk, and express myself. Another example is the way that I like cutting my hair. I'm really into grunge music, so I try to dress to fit the style, meaning that I've cut my hair many times and I really love having a wolf cut. But whenever I change anything in my appearance, I immediately feel insecure and seen by her, and basically my family in general. We've had intense arguments, and she tells me what she really thinks about me when she is upset. She has said things like, "Oh, I'm just trying to excuse myself from being a jerk by saying that I'm being too sensitive." Now, I consider myself very tolerant with awful people, and I often remain silent when someone is rude to me, but for some reason, my family thinks I'm rude and often aggressive with people, but I just don't see this at all, and other people besides my family view me in a completely different way. I also think that I am indeed quite sensitive. Friends have told me that it's a big flaw in me, and to be honest, this really breaks me down. It's been this way my entire life, and the more I grow, the more I feel attacked and undermined by her, which has led me to think that she is jealous or angry at me in some twisted way. So am I overreacting by my sister's constant jokes at my expense? What should I do? No, this is not an overreaction for being upset by the way they're talking about you. And let's just get this clear, they're not jokes. They're hurtful comments that are very one-sided. If they were actually jokes, then you would find them funny. But at this point, she's just insulting you and saying horrible things about you, and then trying to pass it off like, "Oh, I was only kidding." But it's like, no, it doesn't matter if you're kidding or not. What you're saying hurt my feelings, and you can't keep doing that under the guise of, "Oh, I was just messing around." And personally, I cannot stand when people do that, because it's almost like they now have a license to offend you whenever they want. Like, that's not fair for you in the slightest, and you don't deserve that. And I think you might be right about the way she's acting, because it really does seem like she's angry or jealous of you in some kind of way. Like, her behavior is so toxic and so annoying that it's almost coming off as like obsessive or something like that. So no, you're not overreacting and you're not overly sensitive. What your sister has been saying about you is completely inappropriate, and if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would also be upset about this. My entitled brother and his fiance kicked me out of their bridal party after I got engaged in secret, claiming that I was taking away from their wedding and that I was ruining their big day. But then things escalate from there as my brother demands that I still cover the cost of the wedding, even though they kick me out of the wedding party. And now, after saying no to them, they're calling me selfish and saying that I'm holding a grudge against them, causing my family to become split down the middle on who's wrong and who's right. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have always been close with my brother, who we will call Tom, and we've had a great relationship. When he got engaged to his fiance, who we will call Sarah, I was honored to be asked to be a bridesmaid. They've been planning a big wedding for over a year, and I've been heavily involved in helping organize things and even offered to cover some of the cost since my brother and his fiance were on a tight budget. Well, a few months ago, my partner proposed to me and I said yes. We kept it low-key to not take away from Tom's upcoming wedding since we have been together for years and have an established marriage-like life together. However, after announcing our engagement, Sarah became very cold towards me. Tom later told me that Sarah was upset, feeling like I stole her spotlight by getting engaged before their wedding. A week later, Tom and Sarah called me and said that because of the timing of my engagement, it would be best if I stepped down as a bridesmaid. Sarah wanted to focus on her, and apparently my new engagement was too distracting. Well, I was hurt, but I agreed to step down to keep the peace. Well, here's where things really escalated. Tom recently asked if I was still willing to cover the wedding costs I had previously offered to pay for a significant amount of money, and when he made this request, I was shocked. But even still, I politely declined, saying that I didn't feel comfortable contributing anymore since I was no longer in the bridal party and I felt very hurt by the situation. Tom then got really upset and called me selfish, saying I'm ruining his big day. Sarah even accused me of holding a grudge and trying to punish them, and now my family is split. Some think that I should still help out since I initially offered, while others agree that it's unfair to expect me to contribute, especially after getting kicked out of the wedding party. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Tom and Sarah are out of their mind, as well as any other family members, if they really think that you should cough up any money after getting kicked out of the wedding party. But not even that. You got kicked out over the stupidest reasons on planet Earth. You mean to tell me they kicked you out of their wedding all because you got engaged, and somehow this is distracting from their stupid wedding? Like, what is going on? How does your engagement take away from their wedding? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, and that is so unfair. Like, that is the dumbest reason anyone's ever had for kicking somebody out of their wedding party. But then for Tom to turn around and be like, hey, by the way, even though you're not in the wedding party, we need that money you offered us before. You're still gonna pay it, right? Like, what in the world is going on right now? That is insane in my opinion. You tried to politely decline, but these people are like, wow, you're holding a grudge. I can't believe you. Like, this is some like next level gaslighting, because this is insane. There is seriously no good excuse to act this way. So no, of course you're not the jerk. These people are out of their minds if they expect you to give them money, and anyone who would even begin to possibly agree with them, in my opinion, is completely delusional. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk for not paying for my friend's flight home? Because right now, as we're planning a road trip up to Northern California, everything is slowly falling apart, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my friends and I are road tripping to Northern California soon for a long weekend. The road trip will be about a 10.5-hour drive. 12 of us are attending the trip, and we're all around the same age. There's 2 couples, including myself and my boyfriend. We're all driving together from the same city, except for 3 people who are going by themselves. Only myself and one of my other friends have a car. So I'm taking 5 people in car A, and my friend is taking 4 people in car B. In car A, we have myself, my boyfriend, my friend who has met everyone once or twice, but is mainly my friend, and a second to that is the closest to my roommates. And the last 2 people to round out the car are my 2 other roommates. Car B has the driver, who we will call Becky, who doesn't live in the same city as us, but is driving to our city to pick us up and drive to Florida as part of a longer travel period that she's taking. My other friend in the car, who we will call Lisa, who is also very close with Becky, as well as 2 other friends who we will call Ben and Daisy. They're the other couple, and Daisy is roommates with Lisa. Now, the cars are divided pretty logically by household plus the people we're closest to. We're also all in agreement on how we're gonna split gas, so there's no drama there. However, Becky and Lisa, after our trip, plan to go on a second vacation of their own, meaning Becky's car will not be returning to our city, and her passengers that need to go home, namely Ben and Daisy, are going to be stranded. Becky is willing to drive them halfway home to an airport, where flights will cost about $150 to get home. So I told them, while I can't fit them in my car on the way back because it only has 5 seats, I'm happy to take their luggage so they don't have to incur any extra fees. Well, Daisy is upset, feeling like the situation is awful for her and Ben, and this is all because they just so happen to be placed in Becky's car, so now they have to take on extra costs. We're going to discuss it this week, but possible solutions have been either splitting the flight tickets across everybody going back, or doing some sort of drawing early of who gets to go back in the car versus who's flying. Now, I personally don't think myself or the passengers should be responsible for the cost of the flights. My passengers are coming with me due to their closeness to me, and they're the people I want to spend the long drive with. Now, as a side note, I was also invited to the trip with Becky and Lisa, but I felt too guilty to strand my 4 passengers. Well, Daisy is getting increasingly upset about the situation over text messaging, so I know it's going to be a tense situation. She is quick to anger and to blame others, and has been already butting heads with Lisa recently over roommate problems. Daisy is the kind of person to hold a grudge, and if we made them pay for a flight, she may make snide comments about it throughout the trip. As her roommate, Lisa feels a lot of anxiety about it and is trying to appease her, but I want to stand my ground and protect my passengers. I'm just not sure the best way to split the cost and the logistics of returning home while also maintaining the peace. So would I be the jerk if I decided to not pay for my friend's flight home? What should I do? No, you would not be the jerk, because why would this be your problem? Seriously, first of all, this all needs to be figured out like way in advance. Like, this already sounds like an absolute mess, and this would be plenty of grounds for me to basically back out and be like, okay, I don't think I want to be a part of this. Like, seriously, this sounds insane in my opinion. Because here's my problem with this entire situation. You are not the one abandoning these people on the side of the road to go do some extra trip. That literally falls on the shoulders of Becky and Lisa. So if they really want to help their friends out, they shouldn't look around and be like, who's going to help pay for this? And instead look in their own pockets and put the money in for them. And also, why is Ben and Daisy okay with just getting stranded in Northern California? Like, this this is so stupid across the board. Everybody's so dumb in this situation. More specifically, literally everybody in car B. Like if I knew I was going on a road trip and the person driving us there was like, okay, I can take you halfway, then I guess I'm just gonna leave and go to Florida, I would be like, oh, that's cool, I'm not going anymore. Screw that. There's just no way that's happening. Like at that rate, you're basically walking into getting stranded and there's no reason to do that. Plus, you're literally taking on extra cost by being like, okay, I'll just get a flight home. So for anybody outside of car B to be like, who's gonna help pay for this? Like that alone is so ridiculous it's not even funny. Because this is quite literally not your problem, and Becky and Lisa need to step up and be better friends. My mom is upset because I want to work a job that requires me to work weekends, resulting in her not being able to use my car. And right now, I'm wondering if I'm the one that's being selfish in this situation, because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I currently live with my mom, and back in June, I got laid off from my job, which also covered housing. It sucked because I really loved that job and it was rent-free. And while I had already lined up a place to live, my mom offered me her home. Now, while I was traveling for work, there was no need for me to have my car, so I left it with my mother who doesn't have a car. She normally wouldn't need a car, but came into the care of her 2 grandchildren, which also required her to re-enter the workforce. She was lucky to land a mainly remote job, but it does require her to come into the office once a week. Now, I've been working my work schedule around her schedule, along with my school schedule as I'm becoming an EMS. I feel like I've been pretty compromisable with her. There have been times where I've given her my schedule weeks in advance, and I've had to change things last minute just to accommodate some stuff that she had to do. While I do live with her rent-free, I do help out as well. I do chores around the house, I take my nieces to and from school as needed, I take them to clubs, and other things that might be needed. I also do grocery runs and errands for my mom. My mom constantly talks about how grateful she is for letting me use the car, and how much money she's saving by letting her use the car. And as a side note, it is my car. I pay all the insurance, included her insurance as well. But the thing that happened that prompted me even writing this is that I was promised a promotion at my current day job, and 2 times now it was given to someone else. So I decided I was going to look for a new job. I told a friend I was looking for a job, and he so happened to be a manager somewhere and was looking for someone, and offered me a job where I would make more than I would have made with that promotion. But the thing is, it was Thursday through Sunday, which I didn't mind. I actually preferred working weekends because I don't like going out when everything is crowded. I told my mom, and I thought she would be excited because I'd be doing a job that I'd actually like to do, and I'd get way more money, plus I would have to work less. But instead, she started talking about how I would be working all weekend, and she didn't outright say it, but she was commenting a lot of negative things. She would say stuff like, I guess you'll have the car all weekend, huh? I guess we can't do anything in the weekend. Better plan all my shopping trips on the weekdays after work. I guess I can just walk. It'll be hard to take the kids to the movies. I guess we can always just Uber there. And the worst part is that she always ends by saying, oh, I'm not saying this to deter you from taking the job or anything like that. We'll be fine. We could just Uber everywhere. But if that was the case, then why do you keep making comments? I honestly have no idea if I'm in the wrong or if I'm overreacting. I thought it was fair considering I'm living with her rent-free, but I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of and being gaslit. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, your mom is a guilt-tripping jerk, because that is all this is. She's being passive-aggressive on purpose to get under your skin and making these snide remarks by being like, oh yeah, I guess we'll just walk there. And in my opinion, people who act like this are seriously some of the most annoying people to deal with on the planet. Like, this is such an immature way of discussing anything, or even beginning to have a conversation of any kind. Like, seriously, if she has a problem with you taking the car, then she should speak up and say something like an adult, and not do this weird routine where she's acting like a teenager and she's like, oh no, it's fine, I'm not mad. Please take the job, we'll just walk everywhere. So you know what? If she wants to act like that and wants to be petty and passive aggressive, then seriously, let her do that. And best of all, you should take her at her face value. If she's saying she'll walk everywhere and use an Uber to get around, then guess what? Congratulations, that's exactly what you're gonna do. If she's saying that this shouldn't deter you from taking away from your job and that she's going to Uber everywhere, then guess what? You should go ahead with your job. If she's gonna be immature, then congratulations, you're gonna take her at face value. And I think that's the only way it's gonna get through that no, these stupid tactics are not gonna work. At least that's what I would do if I was in your situation. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance that only you know about, so you should do exactly what's best for you and your situation. Like, we don't know everything, but this is something I've personally done and I've loved every second of it because it throws their passive-aggressive petty garbage right back in their face, and they realize really quickly, oh wait, this isn't working. They're not feeling bad about the things I'm saying, but they're taking it at face value. And of course, you can read between the lines, like I'm sure you know exactly what's going on. man. But if she's incapable of having a conversation, then seriously, that's on her and not you. So truly, I hope this all works out for you because you deserve that job regardless of the petty garbage that your mom tries to throw your way. My aunt says that I don't have a choice about going to church and is now demanding that I have to show up regardless of my feelings about going back to church. And right now, I feel very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my track record with setting boundaries is definitely not a good one. But lately, my patience with my family and their ability to walk all over me is growing very thin. And I'm not trying to explode and drag some poor souls down with me if they don't deserve it. So I need you all to keep it straight with me. Now, for some context that is very important, I'm a 24-year-old pansexual female who was raised in a homophobic and fear-mongering Christian household. I also have a 24-year-old female partner of almost 10 years. My immediate family knows about my partner and I, and for the most part, or at least on the surface, it isn't a problem. So here's the deal. My 23-year-old cousin called me yesterday to invite me to their prayer group for that night, and for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna call it church. Now, the short answer is that I told her that I'm not going because I'm currently healing from my past religious experiences and prefer building my spiritual connection solo. Well, she responded saying that she thinks I misinterpreted what she was asking and assured me that the church wasn't judgmental, which again wasn't my problem with the idea. My cousin then asked to get on a call, but then told me that she would call me back in a bit since she was on the phone with her mom. Well, that call came when the moon had already settled in the sky and my tolerance for BS was at its weakest. Not to mention my bonnet and I were already comfortable, so I didn't answer. And when the reinforcement calls started pouring in from her and her mom with the same intensity as the feds at someone's door, I of course didn't answer and my partner did the same. The next morning, my aunt calls and pretty much enters the chat by saying, "I want you to do something for me and you don't really have a choice, like you just can't say no." She then tells me that she wants me to come to their church this Friday, but in that corporate America way where she says it with a smile and hides her passive aggression with a laugh as if she's joking. She even says to me, "And I don't want to hear that garbage that you tried to tell your cousin," which by the way, that garbage is me trying to explain my point of view. And that really pissed me off. Anyways, I listened to her go on and on about how the church is non-judgmental and would be a great experience for me while continuously trying to guide my answer to a yes and ignoring my ranging answers of me saying no or I'll think about it. She only lets me go after I pretty much had to respond to everything she said by saying, "Okay, I'll think about it." But she made it clear that I had already said "see you at 6" in her mind by the time the call had ended. So, dear internet, this is where you come in. See, the way my aunt talked about the church actually has me interested in going, if only to at least check it out. My problem is that I don't feel like my feelings aren't important. I know it wasn't my aunt's intention, but to ignore and straight up disrespect my reason for calling them BS without even giving me a chance to explain was not up to code with me. At this point, I'm considering not going just to drive home the point that when I set a boundary, I don't care what you think about it. It is my boundary. But on the other hand, I actually want to go. I just don't want to go on what feels like their terms. I'm afraid that if I don't go, I might be letting my pride and ego keep me away from a potentially amazing experience. But if I do go, I might be allowing this behavior from my aunt to slide, even if I sit her down and tell her that I don't appreciate how that conversation went. So internet, please put on your cape and help me. What is the best way to set those boundaries, but still have that experience that I decided that I want? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, you need to not let these people walk all over you. I don't care for a second how your aunt made this church sound. Like they could be handing out gold bars in the parking lot, and that still would not make me want to go. Because you're letting her manipulation completely excuse the fact that she treated you like garbage not even, 10 minutes into the conversation? She didn't want to hear any of your excuses, and she didn't care about what you said. And the fact that she kept pressuring you to be like, "Okay, we'll see you at 6, you have to be there, you have no choice." Like that, in my opinion, is super toxic and not okay. Like seriously, that is really messed up in my opinion. Because now the original poster is questioning everything. Like they said no probably multiple times in that conversation. Enough to make anybody go nuts. But this aunt is like, "No, you have to go." And then probably just steamroll the conversation until you said, "Okay, I'll think about it." So in my opinion, I don't think you actually want to go, but instead you're just going along with it so she'll leave you alone, which is manipulation at its finest. Like I would not ignore that. So in my opinion, no matter how these people made this sound, I would never ignore the fact that she completely ignored everything that you said initially. She didn't care about your experience, and that in my opinion is the biggest red flag that you could possibly look for. Am I the jerk for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding, all because she wanted me to be a squirrel wrangler at her wedding? Here's what happened. Okay, so buckle up because this one is absolutely insane. I'm a 28-year-old male, and I've been best friends with someone who we will call Emily for over 15 years. We've been through everything together, and when she asked me to be in her wedding party, I was of course thrilled, or at least I thought. At first, everything seemed super normal. There were tux fittings and cake tasting, just the usual wedding stuff. But then, one night during a group Zoom meeting to discuss wedding logistics, Emily dropped an announcement that truly blew my mind. She said to the group, "Oh, and Jake, you're going to be the official squirrel wrangler at the wedding." Now, I thought it was a joke and I laughed, but apparently no, she was completely serious. Apparently, Emily and her fiance are really into squirrels, which is news to me by the way, and decided that instead of a flower girl or a ring bearer, they want trained squirrels to run down the aisle with the rings tied to their little backs. And guess who's responsible for wrangling these squirrels and ensuring they perform this weird rodent relay without any chaos? So yes, if you guessed me, you would be right. I calmly asked Emily why, out of all the people at the wedding, she wanted me, a person with zero squirrel wrangling experience, to handle this task. She told me it was because I had the calming energy the squirrels would need, and also she didn't trust anyone else to do it right. And I mean, what does that even mean? At this point, I thought maybe she hired some sort of squirrel trainer and I would just be assisting in some kind of way. But no, Emily straight up handed me a binder full of squirrel facts, a list of local parks where I could practice capturing them, and some sunflower seeds. And when she did this, I was floored. I told her there was no way I could do this. I am not Steve Irwin, and the idea of trying to corral wild squirrels on her big day seemed like a recipe for disaster. I pictured the chaos in front of me: squirrels scattering around, rings lost in the bushes, guests screaming as squirrels ran up their legs. I mean, this would be a complete disaster. Well, Emily flipped out. She said this was her dream wedding, and I was ruining it by refusing to be the squirrel wrangler. She even started tearing up, saying how she trusted me more than anyone to make sure the squirrels deliver the ring safely. And at this point, I couldn't tell if I was in a nightmare or a fever dream. After a long while of awkward silence, I told her I wasn't comfortable with this bizarre responsibility and suggested we hire an actual professional if she was that set on using squirrels. Emily called me selfish and accused me of not being a real friend, and said if I couldn't handle such a small task, then maybe I shouldn't even come to the wedding. So you know what? I'm not going. And now our mutual friends are blowing up my phone, saying that I'm overreacting and that it's just one quirky task. But I'm sorry, wrangling squirrels at a wedding seems like something that could land me on the local news, and not in a good way. So am I the jerk for refusing to do this for my friend? What should I do? No, there's no way you're the jerk in this situation. Is your friend seriously getting upset because you don't want to be like the wildlife expert of her stupid wedding? How in the world can she possibly be taking offense to this? It literally doesn't make any sense. What she's asking you, by the way, is literally insane. She wants you to tame wild animals before her wedding and seriously expect you to somehow control them, all because you have a calming energy. It's like, what are you talking about? That is not how this works. The second those squirrels are let free, they are going to run around causing absolute chaos. Like, Emily does know those are wild animals, right? They're not something you can tame overnight, especially for a wedding. Like, at that point, just for the safety of everybody there, having a professional who literally does this for a living would be like the best thing for everyone. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for turning this down. If I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. There is no way anybody's gonna get me to wrangle squirrels, and you should definitely not have to do that in the slightest. An entitled Karen treats me like garbage at my customer service job by constantly trying to work the system in order to get a refund or some kind of store credit. But after I found out where she works, I decided to get some much needed revenge by humiliating her at her job in the same way that she's done at mine. Here's what happened. So I used to work a customer service job at a dispensary, and we had this one customer that was just a cranky, miserable woman. She would come in acting all sweet, say hi to all of us, ask for her product, and then the show would begin. Here's an example of how these transactions typically went. She would say something like, "This isn't what I ordered. Go get what I ordered right now." Then the employee would say, "Ma'am, you specifically requested this product." But this entitled Karen would say, "No, I said I wanted the pineapple gummies. Now go get them right now." We would then go get the thing that she said she wanted, and she would just complain about lazy employees, and then be all smiles again, and then she would pay and leave, only to then be right back in the store a half hour later with any excuse that she could think of. Maybe the package was open when she got it and the product was melted together, or maybe there was a hair in the jar, or the packaging smelled like chlorine. Any stupid excuse she could pull from her rear end just to look for some kind of refund or a store credit. If you could think of it, she would probably try it and use it. And every single time she came in, this is exactly how it went. But then one day, I went to a gas station to fill up my car while I was in the next town over. And wouldn't you guess it? This entitled Karen was a cashier at the gas station. So I of course asked for a pack of cigarettes. She grabbed the pack and I said, "That is not what I asked for. I asked for a different brand." So she would then go grab the other brand, and then I would double down and I say, "That's not what I wanted the other one." Well, after she tried to grab another third brand of cigarettes, I would interrupt her and say, "What are you doing? I'm just in here to pay for my gas." Now, the long stare she gave me was almost enough to make me regret starting stuff with her, but she knew as an employee that she could get in real trouble if she snapped at me. So she forced a smile, put my cash in the register, and I went on my merry way. But I wasn't done. I came right back in 5 minutes later, and I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me, I only spent this amount of money on gas, but you took all of my money. Where is my change?" Now, at this point, she is obviously super pissed off, but what was she gonna do about it? Yeah, that's right, absolutely nothing. So she tries very hard and fails to politely explain to me that the gas cost the amount I had given her, and she couldn't give me the difference. So, in a voice that almost sounded exactly like hers, I complained about all these lazy employees. I gave a sweet smile, and then I said goodbye, walking out, just like she does every single time she comes into my store. Now, she didn't learn her lesson for a while, and came back in a few more times with her same old routine. But then I recruited a coworker, and we both went back to that gas station separately a few times and did our new routine. After trying and failing to file a complaint, she stopped coming in entirely, and balance was finally restored in the universe. Now, I don't work at the dispensary anymore, but hitting back at her in the way that she did to my coworkers honestly makes me smile all these years later. Yeah, this is a classic case of mess around and find out. She seriously would walk into this store and make such a fuss, all with the main objective of getting a refund or some kind of store credit. Like, I can't stand people who try to work the system like this because it really is just so disgusting. And she herself works in customer service. Like, come on. You would think that she knows better. Like, that's the one person who should at least be reasonable in some kind of way. But you know what? Karma is a wonderful thing because I absolutely love the way you and your friends handled this situation. You not only found out where she worked, but you gave her the exact same treatment that she's been giving you. Like, that is brilliant. That is so smart because hopefully it shined a light on how toxic she's been acting at your store. So good for you for getting this well-needed revenge because this entitled Karen absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for demanding that my niece or her parents pay me back for the hundreds of dollars of perfume that she stole from my house? Because right now, I'm still pissed off about this, and I really need to know if I'm making the right call. Here's what happened. So I have a perfume collection that I started when I was a teenager slinging burritos as my first job. I have over 400 bottles at this point, and I take great pride in my collection and I use it. I'm also happy to give people samples of most of my bottles and let them sample a spray or two and even give some bottles as gifts. But what I have a massive issue with is my 17-year-old niece coming into my home under the guise of walking my dog, using these bottles on her own, and then selling the samples to her little friends. She thinks that because I have so many bottles, I wouldn't notice some missing or getting massive dents in them. Well, Little Miss Entrepreneur failed to realize that her private Instagram account wasn't friends only or whatever, and I saw each and every story with each price and sample that she had. I tallied that up and got a pretty good estimate based on cost per ounce. Thankfully, she mostly picked the TikTok famous perfumes and didn't go for the more rare and niche perfumes. She did snatch an entire 2.5 ounce bottle, which runs about $300 at most retailers, as well as full bottles of perfume you can only get at Sephora. Now, petty or not, I printed out the entire list of what she had taken, including the price estimate, and handed it over to my sister, who is her mother. I said that I expect to be paid back in full, and of course, her sneaky idiot self is never allowed in my home ever again. Well, my sister got super pissed off with me, going on about how my niece is just a kid, and kids make mistakes and all this other garbage. And I said, yes, kids make mistakes, and this is a great way for my niece to learn from hers. Their argument is that now the money she was going to use for a car has to go towards paying me back. But I literally don't care. She is lucky that I have no interest in involving the police or having any kind of small claims or anything like that. So am I the jerk for doing this despite the fact that she's a 17-year-old teenager? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk because your sister is completely wrong. She is not a kid. She is on the verge of becoming an adult. She is 17 years old and she absolutely knew what she was doing. Like, this wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated decision. She stole your property, whatever that property is, and she sold so much of it that now she can buy a car. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, that is not gonna happen. You don't get to just steal from me and then expect to have some kind of reward from it. That would be like going to Sephora itself and doing the same same thing and being like, well, what do you mean? I'm just a kid. I make mistakes. The same consequences you would get from stealing from Sephora absolutely should apply in this situation. But in my opinion, I think you're letting her off easy by saying, I'm not going to involve the police. Which, if I was in your shoes, I definitely would. But the original poster makes it very clear that they're not going to do that, so that's basically off the table. But regardless, you are not the jerk for holding her responsible for her actions. Because truly, if she's going to make mistakes like this, then she should absolutely, quite literally, pay the consequences. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that he made a dumb decision and I don't need to fix it for him? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male and my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. And I do remember her, but just not amazingly well. When I was 7, my dad started dating again and he met a woman that we will call Mary. At first, I was upset about Mary and my dad dating and I didn't want to meet her and I gave her a hard time. I told her I didn't want her replacing my mom. She gave me space to let out all my feelings at her and then she reassured me she was not here to take my mom's place. She told me that she really liked my dad and wanted to really like me too, but she didn't have to be my mom for us to like each other. At first, I wasn't sure if I believed her, but she won me over and we got along really well. She even lived with us for a year. But when I was 10, my dad broke up with Mary and said she wasn't trying hard enough to fill the role of mom for me and that I needed a mom. I told him I didn't want another mom and that I loved Mary, saying that she was the best. Mary was blindsided by it because things had been so good, and I don't think my dad had said it would be a deal breaker. Well, within a few months, he met his wife, who we will call Stacy. Stacy was a single mom with a 2-year-old daughter. I was 11 by then, and Stacy was very on board to be my new mom, and I was not. I said it so many times that I didn't want a new mom. I wouldn't call someone else mom. I miss Mary and wouldn't give Stacy a chance if she tried to take over mom's place. Well, I was just completely ignored, and dad and Stacy got married when I was 12. After my 16th birthday, which was June, my dad kind of realized I was serious about not wanting a mom and not giving Stacy a chance to be my mom. She has tried so hard too. She has tried to make me love her and her daughter, but I'm not here to get a new mom. I'm not open to it, and it's something my dad now knows. It's caused a lot of strain with him and Stacy because Stacy found out that I sent a direct message to Mary recently and apologized for dad and thanked her for being awesome and saying that I miss her. Stacy said that she can't even get me to say that I like her. I told her it's because I don't. That I don't like people who don't listen or think that they can make me do things, like them be my new mom. Stacy then said that she was expecting and was promised a family for her daughter, and she was definitely not promised this. Dad then pulled me aside a few nights ago and told me he now realized I was serious about the things I said, and he realized I loved Mary, but that he really wanted the best for me, and someone who wouldn't even try to be my mom wasn't it. He told me Stacy would be such a good second mom to me, and I could have a sister if I give this a chance. He said his marriage could end if we can't pull together as a family, but I told him he made a dumb decision and I would not fix it for him. I said it was fine if Mary just wasn't the one for him or if their relationship changed, but I loved her because she wasn't my mom. She was someone I could trust and love, and that my dislike for Stacy wasn't changing, and neither was my unwillingness to get a new mom. Well, my dad then said that I don't get to speak to him like that, and that this was completely out of line. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all because with all things considered, the way your dad's going about just dismissing Stacy's behavior is really annoying and so frustrating. He is dancing around the issue that you don't want another mom. You've made it very clear from very early on that you don't want another mom in your life. You don't want to replace the one that you had, and Mary really was a good fit. And sure, if Mary and your dad didn't get along and it wasn't meant to be, then that's fine. But it really seems like he only broke up with her because he was like, oh wow, you're not being a good mother to my kid. But it's like, wait a second, what are you doing? This is not what you wanted. And sure, Stacy probably has good intentions, but it seems like she's being very overbearing and just going way above what she should be doing. So with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk because the way your dad is acting, in my opinion, is very inappropriate. Am I the jerk for pretty much telling my friend I told you so after he got into a car crash? Because after dealing with their scrutiny and their awful comments towards my driving over the years, they're offended that I decided to point out the karma that is sitting right in front of us. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old male, and I am the only one with a car, so I was the one driving everybody around. I had a set of rules that everyone had issues with, such as everybody needing to have a seatbelt on, no eating or drinking in the car, no distracting me while I'm driving, and no blocking my blind spot by sitting weirdly. Now, everyone constantly grilled me for my rules and made fun of me for following the law. And yes, I will admit that I miss my exit a quarter of the time, but I won't cut off other drivers or reverse just to save a few minutes. One of my friends even said, if I had a car, I wouldn't drive like a a grandma like you. You suck at driving. Well, suffice to say, I was relieved when one of my friends finally got a car and could be the group driver. At first, everyone roasted me in group chats and in real life, raving about how much more fun it was now that I wasn't driving. 5 months after getting his license and car, my friend told everyone in the group chat that he had been in a car crash and his car was totaled. He shared the dashcam footage and genuinely thought that he wasn't at fault, calling the other driver a dumb typical female driver. The footage showed him going 75 kilometers an hour in a 50 kilometer an hour zone on a blind curve. The other driver was turning right and he hit her at full speed. Instead of braking, this guy just started honking his horn, and for some reason, neither he nor the other driver got a ticket. Well, I told him in the group chat that he was probably at fault, considering he was going about 50% over the speed limit on a blind curve and just 100 meters from a school zone that required you to go 40 kilometers an hour. Even if he had the right-of-way, insurance would deem him at fault due to his speed and slow reaction time. I then told him to not send the footage to his insurance company. Well, of course, everyone in the chat called me a jerk, and one of them said, "Bro, I live near that neighborhood, and my brother goes like 80 on that street. Everybody does. That lady was an idiot." Well, since the cop didn't give him a ticket and the group chat supported him, he ended up sending the footage to his insurance company. He was so confident that he started asking for suggestions on what new car to get once he received a fat paycheck. Everyone got hyped up and started browsing AutoTrader. Well, a week later, he got the verdict from his provider, and he was deemed 100% at fault. He also had the cheapest insurance plan, so his insurance company paid nothing to him and only covered the other driver. Even if they had paid him something, he wouldn't be able to afford insurance with his record as a young male. In the group chat, I responded by saying, "Now you know why I drive like a grandma, enjoy taking the bus," while also labeling this as a sarcastic comment. Well, after I said that, everyone in the chat reacted by saying, "Wow," and then a startled face emoji. He replied by saying, "Rules are meant to be broken. I'm not a stickler like you. Everyone gets in a car crash." So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and it honestly sounds like your friends are pretty toxic to begin with. If someone's gonna ride in your car, they have to follow the rules. That means putting a seatbelt on and sitting still and not getting in the way. Like, that is basic human decency, and there's no reason for them to act that way. But also, the condescending remarks they've said about you is just completely inappropriate. Them calling you a grandma and saying that you suck at driving, but at the end of the day, who's the one that got in the accident, and who's the one who actually has a car that currently works? So personally, I don't think you're the jerk at all for responding and being like, "Wow, that sucks," because these people have said way worse to you. Why should they get to make fun of your driving and then suddenly get offended when you make fun of theirs? And it's so funny to me that he's like, everybody gets into a car crash, and it's like, sure, that is a point, but if you follow the rules of the road and you're paying attention and you're not an idiot going over the speed limit, then you lower that chance significantly. Yes, it can happen to anybody, but you're more likely for that to happen when you do stupid stuff like this friend. Like, I can't stand people who have this like superiority complex of like, "Oh, rules are meant to be broken, and I decided to break mine, but that's not why I got in an accident." And it's like, dude, that's exactly why you got in an accident. If you were going the speed limit, then you could have avoided slamming into this lady and destroying your car. And yes, even the insurance company says that this is your fault. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk for firing back at them and giving them a taste of their own medicine. Because honestly, it sounds like your friends are pretty toxic, and this is something they absolutely deserve to hear. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my sister's kids to school after I found out that they've been bullying my son? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, my sister and her 2 kids recently moved in with us after she went through a rough divorce. For the sake of the story, we'll call my sister Sarah and her 2 kids Jake and Mia. She's been staying with us for about 6 months now, and we've tried to be as accommodating as possible. My wife and I have 1 son. We will call my wife Laura and my son Ethan. And honestly, at first, everything was fine and the kids got along okay. Over the last few months, however, Jake and Mia have been making Ethan's life miserable. They've been teasing him constantly, calling him names, and even going through his things when we're not around. It's been especially bad for Ethan because he's more introverted and quiet. He's come to us multiple times and he's been upset about things they've said or done. And I've tried addressing it with Sarah, but her response has been pretty dismissive, saying, "Oh, it's just normal sibling stuff. They'll grow out of it." The tipping point came last week when Ethan told me that Jake had taken his school project, something that he had spent days working on, and ruined it by drawing all over it. Ethan was in tears. When I confronted Jake, he laughed it off like it was a joke, and Sarah didn't seem to think that it was such a big deal and said that Ethan was being too sensitive. Now, Laura was furious but tried to stay calm. Eventually, I finally had enough, and I told Sarah that if she couldn't keep her kids in check, then I wasn't going to keep doing favors like like driving them to school every day. For reference, I've been taking all the kids to school since Sarah moved in because her car broke down and she has not been able to get it fixed. This is also about a 20-minute detour for me, and I was happy to do it at first, but after this, I told her it was too much and she needed to figure it out on her own. Now Sarah is upset, saying I'm punishing her and her kids over something small, and it's not fair for me to leave her stranded. She even went as far as to say that I was being petty and holding a grudge against the kids. She thinks I'm overreacting and should just let it go for the sake of family harmony. My wife is 100% on my side and thinks that Sarah's kids have been out of line for months. But now Sarah's giving me the cold shoulder and telling other family members that I'm being unreasonable. So am I the jerk for refusing to drive them to school anymore? What should I do? Oh man, this really pisses me off because I know exactly what you're going through. This kind of behavior is so obnoxious. I know people who like this who are just completely dismissive of their monster children, who will literally allow them to say and do whatever they want, and those kids never face any consequences. You're always expected to be the bigger person, and everybody else who's offended is just overreacting. So no, you're not the jerk by saying, I'm not going to help you any longer, because this behavior is unacceptable. And the fact that she's now going behind your back and talking to other family members and trying to spread these weird lies about you, like that for me would be the tipping point where I would say, okay, you've got to go. If you want to talk crap about me so badly to other family members, then you can go live with said family members. You are not going to do that to me in my own home for a single second. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Sarah and her kids need to get a grip because right now they are taking advantage of your kindness. And that is not something that you should deal with in the slightest. An entitled old jerk yells at a gate agent after he missed his flight as it was being taxied away. But as a result, this gate agent got the last laugh, as they made this jerk wait for hours for another flight, thus missing the next one that was available in just a few hours. Here's what happened. Okay, so the closest airport to me is a smaller regional airport in a different time zone. So if you fail to take this into consideration, you can definitely miss your flight. One time, I missed my flight this way, and I'm waiting in line at the gate to get rebooked. And from the looks of it, the entitled old man in front of me has evidently done the same thing. The agent points to a plane taxiing away from the terminal and tells him, that's your flight, I'm sorry. Before she can explain what his options are, this guy loses his mind. He starts shouting, tell them to bring back that plane right now. You do not understand, I have to be on that flight. He doesn't chill out until she says, look, one more outburst and I'm calling security. She then books him on the next flight out, which is at 10 o'clock p.m., and right now it's 9:30 in the morning. Well, this guy then grabs his stuff and stomps off in a furious rage. Well, I'm up next and I'm thinking to myself, great, I get to tell her the same story. I say to her, hey, I did the same thing as that guy, but it's 100% my fault and I'm not going to get upset. You definitely should not have to put up with that. She takes my information and prints out my new boarding passes, which I assume are for the 10 p.m. flight. Well, instead, she directs me to a shuttle bus, which will take me to the big international airport that is about an hour away, and then hands me boarding passes for a flight to my destination that gets me there just a couple of hours later. Now, she very easily could have done the same thing for Mr. Temper Tantrum that stormed off, but she deliberately and deservedly made him wait for 12 hours instead. And honestly, that guy absolutely had it coming. Yeah, this story's fantastic because that guy absolutely deserved this. For anyone to walk up and treat a gate agent of all people like that, and to scream in their face and be like, you don't understand, I need to be on that flight, as well as barking orders at her as if she's some kind of servant, like that is so inappropriate and so unbelievably rude. No one gets to speak to anybody like that and then expect any semblance of customer service. Like that's definitely not how this is gonna work. So I love the fact that this gate agent knew exactly what they were doing and basically said, oh, okay, you want to be rude? Congratulations, you get to wait all day to go on this flight. Because she very easily could have given him a ticket and said, oh, I'm so sorry, here's another ticket that's gonna get you there way sooner. But instead, she decided to be petty, and honestly, in moments like this, being petty is really the best option for anybody involved. So truly, good for the original poster for getting to witness this in action, because this is a fantastic lesson that if you just show a shred of human decency, then sometimes things can truly work out. A toxic coworker tried to get me fired with false accusations, all because she hated the fact that I was gay, claiming that she never would have gotten this job in the first place if she knew that she would be working for an awful sinner. And I'm still blown away by this lady's awful treatment towards me. Here's what happened. So back in the early 2000s, I was the IT manager for a small company. In May of one year, I hired someone who we will call Robin, the first female in our department. She was a church friend for one of the team members, and he recommended her. I made sure she met the other team members and gave them time without me present. I not only got his feedback, but I made sure that she had a good vibe from him before I hired her. her. Everyone got along and things were running smoothly for several months. The Friday before Thanksgiving, we had a company get-together and everyone's spouses came, and that's when Robin met my husband. I left on Saturday for a 2-week vacation, and when I got back, my boss called me before I could even boot up my computer and asked me to come into his office. While I was gone, Robin accused me of being extremely inappropriate with her specifically, if you know what I mean. HR did their investigation and said they could find no evidence of it because it never happened, but offered to transfer her to another department, and she just declined. Then she said I was an incompetent manager. Now, my style was to assign projects based on people's skills and interests, or let them decide amongst themselves who was going to do what if it wasn't that specific. The other two people in the department loved the freedom and trust, but apparently Robin did not. My boss said that she couldn't point out any specific requests that she made that I was unresponsive to, nor could she think of any time that I singled her out or treated her differently. The fact that I wasn't micromanaging her made me a bad manager in her eyes. My boss told her that might be new to her, but that was how he managed too, and he had never heard anyone complain about being trusted too much or given too much freedom. He suggested that she tell me that she needed more oversight. She said she wasn't comfortable having that conversation, so he offered to do it for her. And that's when she said that she couldn't work with me because I'm gay. My boss asked her if I said or did anything inappropriate, and she said no. In fact, prior to meeting my husband, she thought I was talking about a roommate when I referred to him. Apparently, being gay was against her religious beliefs, and she never would have taken the job had she known. My presence created a hostile work environment for her, so he had to fire me. She was also outraged that my boss dared to call himself a Christian and would accept someone so blatantly sinful. My boss told her to get over it or quit because he was not firing me over her religious beliefs. And well, fast forward and she did end up quitting. When I got back to my desk, the guy who recommended her said that she started stirring stuff up at church, trying to get him thrown out of the congregation since he knew I was gay. He said the church had several lesbian and gay members and never said anything negative about someone being gay, so he was very surprised by her stance. And the preacher even asked her to not come back. So I was completely blown away by Robin's sense of entitlement. She thought her being an evangelical Christian meant that she could dictate who a company could hire or who could attend a church. But I was so thankful that everyone, namely my boss, HR, my team, and even an unknown preacher, had my back during one of the most ridiculous experiences of my life. Wow, Robin is a piece of garbage. Seriously, you can't treat someone like that. Like, what she was requesting is incredibly illegal. You can't fire someone just because they're gay. And you can't make up false accusations of someone mistreating you at the office, especially in the way that Robin was describing this. Like, this wasn't like bullying. These were accusations of something a little bit more like, I don't know, private and personal, if you know what I mean. Like, she just literally made that up to be like, oh, now you have to fire him because I don't want to work for a gay person. Like, what kind of attitude is that? Like, I will never understand people who treat other human beings like that and then profess to be Christ-like and loving when seriously, like, you're literally ostracizing an entire group of people who I'm pretty sure you're supposed to classify as like children of God, right? Like, that kind of garbage is so hypocritical in my opinion, and I just can't stand when people act like that. So to the original poster, I'm so sorry that she tried to get you fired for being gay, because that kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled old jerk demands that I bend over backwards to accommodate his hatred of technology, as he refuses to do anything to make his life easier in making his return and getting any of his money back. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work retail, and this guy bought something online and had it delivered. After receiving it, he decided he didn't want it anymore, so he asked to return it for a refund. I said to him, sure, no problem. Just send it back with a returns form found on our website and ship it back to us. Well, when I said that, he got super pissed off because he had to print a form, and he said to me, well, like most people my age, I don't have a printer. So I said to him, okay, totally fine. Don't print out the form, but instead just include a handwritten note and then you can ship it back to us. He asked me how he's supposed to do that, and I wasn't sure what to say, so I said, by taking it to the post office? And this is where he became even more angry. He said to me, and what, you're expecting me to pay for shipping? I tried to say, well, it is your choice to send it back to us, but that's when he exploded. He said to me, back in my day, stores provided a little something called customer service. I expect to receive that from you as well. Annoyed at the entitlement, but also just exhausted from this garbage, I agreed to provide a return label. I asked him to move the conversation to email though, since I can't provide him a return label over the phone. So he sent his email, rehashed all of his nonsense from the phone call, And I replied by saying the following: I can provide you a return label, but you need to be able to print it off so you can attach it to the item. Well, that was 2 months ago, and he never replied to that email. Today he called back, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Bob. He called in and said, "Hi, it's Bob. Do you remember me?" I said to him, "Sorry, Bob, but I speak to many people every day. You'll have to refresh my memory." And with that, he was fuming all over again. It was like me not remembering him was the worst sort of insult. Well, he rehashed everything again, and then it all came flooding back to me. My immediate thought was, well, didn't this happen months ago? And guess what? I was right, it did. I checked the email chain and I sent my email on June 16th. He again complained about having to ship it back himself and having to have access to a printer. But I just said, because I was annoyed, that this is the way the world works now and I cannot change that. So he said to me, "I'm sick of this. I've had enough of this for today, so I'll call back later." And then he just straight up hung up. Now, I was hoping that would be the last of him for another 2 months, but no. He replied to my email from 2 months ago within the hour. He again started complaining about how we have made this difficult for him and that we should make accommodations for people that don't have a printer. I replied by saying, "We can provide you a PDF of the label, and if you don't have a printer, then you can ask a friend or a relative or even the post office to print it for you." Well, here's the kicker, the absolute cherry on top of his entitlement. He starts screaming at me, "This is your problem to fix, not mine. Your store has set up a system that requires the use of a printer without any consideration for people that are too old to use modern technology. I will not go out of my way to fix a problem that you created. You need to tell the courier to print the label themselves and have them deliver the label to my house." And I thought to myself, wow, I haven't replied yet, but there are so many things I would like to say. Firstly, this is our system? Well, welcome to the 21st century, you decrepit idiot. We didn't invent the need for a printer. Also, couriers are the ones that generate the PDF, not us. But that is the easiest way to do it. Your refusal to understand that does not make you right. Secondly, this is definitely a you problem. I understand not owning your own printer because I don't own one either, but you could easily take the PDF to a friend or a family member that does have one. Even if you don't have friends or family, you could take the item to the post office and ask them to print the label and stick it on the stupid parcel. But no, you have such a vendetta against technology that you refuse to partake in it. It's almost as if you think finding a printer somehow enables this behavior, and your refusal to use a printer is an act of defiance, meant to break us from our reliance on technology. Also, we can go back to a simpler time. Well, buddy, I've had enough. Either pay to ship it back yourself or just forget about your refund. You don't want to enable our reliance on technology? Okay, fine. But I don't want to enable your entitlement. So if this is our stalemate, so be it. We don't lose anything. You're the one that wants to refund it all because you changed your mind. So honestly, the next move is definitely up to this guy. Wow, that's really annoying. Like seriously, if I worked at a job and they're like, "Oh wow, this is your problem," like that would be super obnoxious and I would not handle that well. Because seriously, why are you blaming me for your inability to get stuff done? That doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. Like this is not my fault. He could easily put that copy of the PDF on a thumb drive and take it over to just about any major store and print it on a machine that I'm sure they have available. Or even go to a local library. Like that would be so simple it's not even funny. So yeah, this guy was just completely out of his mind and he's just being super lazy about this entire process. And I'm right there with the original poster because this is absolutely not your problem. My awful roommate tried to take control of my entire life, even going as far as trying to give me a curfew, demanding that I come and go only as she sees fit. And I'm seriously so glad that I don't have to live with her any longer. Here's what happened. So my roommate and I chose to be roommates because we thought that we would get along, but she started getting all entitled and weird when she realized that we had different schedules. Now, a bit of backstory about the both of us. I'm from middle class, even lower middle class suburb, and I was the opposite of spoiled. She came from a rich town where she had a 3-story home and was never told no. So we had very different backgrounds, clearly. I was at school on a scholarship from the state, and she chose the school because the city has way more diversity than she's used to, and she wanted to experience the culture of New York. We shared a bedroom because it was a dorm. She played on a sports team, so she had to be up early, but I didn't. So I would usually stay in my other friend's room until about midnight. I would usually come back to the dorm, not even turn the lights on, and just crawl into bed. Sometimes I'd go into our kitchen and chill in there if I didn't want to go to sleep yet, but it is a separate room. Now, she, on the other hand, would wake up at 4 in the morning, turn on every single light, blast music to get her pumped for practice, and FaceTime her teammates. One day, I was about to go out to see my friends at like 8 o'clock, and she was already in bed, and she asked me to shut the lights off and hurry up as if it was midnight. I said I'll be out in a few, and she was so annoyed. Before I left, she told me that I must be home by 10:30, and I said, well, I'll be back by midnight. And she actually said to me, "No, I have practice. You don't have to go out. And you're so loud when you open up the door." And after she said that, I just kind of left because, like, seriously, what in the world is she talking about? I decided to talk to her the next morning and tell her how loud she was, but she didn't stop. So I told her that I'll come back home early when she stops going to soccer, because why should I not have a life just because she must be in bed at 8 o'clock? Now, another night, I had a serious cough. I got bronchitis at the end of the semester, and one night I was trying to sleep but kept coughing. And after a while, she snapped up out of bed. She looked at me and said, "If you're gonna do that, how about you just go in the kitchen?" And obviously, in that instance, I just said no. She also once told me to stop getting sick because it scares her and makes her anxiety worse. There was another time when she got mad at me because the shower was cold. The conversation went something like, "Did you take a shower?" And I said, "No, I showered last night." And she said to me, "Well, you must have because it's cold and you did something to it." But I just responded by saying, "I just said I didn't take a shower." Well, it turns out the whole dorm's showers were broken, and of course, I didn't get a single apology for that. Another time, I went home for the weekend, and she called me to tell me her friend was gonna sleep over in my bed. And I said no. And surprise, surprise, why was my bed messed up when I got back? Another time, she told me the night before my final that her friend's sleeping over in our room. And mind you, she didn't ask me, but instead she told me. Well, I said I had a final, and her response was that she already told her friend she can fly in from out of state months ago. And trust me when I say this, they were so loud. My other favorite moment was when she got mad at me that I wouldn't go home on my birthday weekend. She wanted her boyfriend to sleep over, and it was my birthday, but I wanted to hang out with my friends instead. But still, she told me to just go home and hang out with my family. And my favorite also was when I went home for winter break, and she decided to stay behind. She asked me, "Did you come back at all during break?" And I said to her, "I've been home for 3 weeks." She then said to me, "Well, my sweater went missing along with other stuff, and I don't want to accuse you, but I think I saw you post it in something similar." I responded by saying, "I've been an hour away at home for almost a month." And yet even when I said that, she still didn't believe me. She asked me, "Are you sure you didn't take it?" So I said to her, "Did you leave your laundry in the wash and forget to take it upstairs?" Well, she had no response until I came back. And the best part about it is that she's 5'2" and I'm 5'9". We are literally completely different sizes. So needless to say, we did not work out as roommates, and I'm really glad that we don't have to live together any longer. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare roommate, because seriously, what is her problem? She was actually trying to make you have a curfew of some kind, and here you are, an adult in college. Like, that's not gonna work for a second, and that is so annoying. But the best part about this entire story, in my opinion, is the fact that you did not take any of her garbage. You defended yourself every single time, and you always had something to say in response to her stupid demands. Like, you didn't give an inch to this lady, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Because seriously, your former roommate sounded incredibly controlling, and I know if I was living in that situation, I would be completely miserable. Am I the jerk for uninviting 25 family members after they collectively demanded that I change my wedding venue, all because they felt like a Halloween-themed wedding would be demonic and something they didn't want to be a part of? Here's what happened. So I've had this Halloween wedding planned for almost 2 years. The venue that I wanted has a wait list, and all of a sudden, my mom and grandma decided the wedding was demonic and want me to make last-minute changes. Well, I told my mom and grandma a firm no. 2 years my family has known about this, and because I told them no, half of my mom's side of the family thought that they would be cute and say that they aren't coming in some kind of power struggle. Well, I told them fine and canceled everyone's invitations who complained, or even backed my mom or grandma on this issue. One of my sisters acted like she stepped out of bridesmaid duty, so I just replaced her. It was about 25 people that decided to act stupid at the less than 6-week mark, so I sent out new invitations. And those included a QR code for those attending that the venue will be using to check people in and only allow those people in to my wedding. Now, my aunt, who was one of the people who were uninvited, told me that people are allowed to disagree with me, and that this doesn't mean that I can pull an invitation from a wedding that most of them had made plans to already attend. Well, I told my aunt that they had 2 years for complaints, but saying that they are not going at the 6-week mark before my wedding is complete and utter garbage. And everyone messed around and found out, and I will not be bullied by my family over this. So am I the jerk for uninviting a large portion of my family to my wedding? Because right now I've upset a lot of people, and at this point I don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk, and I'm honestly so proud of you. I don't even know you, and this seriously brought a smile to my face. Why on earth would anybody in their right mind, after knowing that you had planned this for what, 2 years, try to speak up and be like, "Wow, this is really demonic. You need to change your wedding right now, even though it's 6 weeks before it's supposed to happen." And then on top of that, they thought they could pull some kind of like power play and be like, "Oh, if we all say we're gonna back out, then they will have to change the wedding venue. It's like, people, what on earth were you thinking? That is such a stupid thing to do, it's not even funny. The same people who were saying, oh yeah, this is demonic, are the same people who would dress their kids up and have them walk around on Halloween getting candy. Like, they are complete morons for doing that, and it's just completely unfair to the original poster. And best of all, they knew about this for 2 years. And now, what, not even a month before Halloween, they're trying to make a big deal out of it? Like, no, that is absolutely not okay, and I don't blame you for uninviting them in the slightest. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because these people absolutely had it coming. Am I the jerk for making my pregnant sister-in-law cry after she kept asking me the same question over and over again regarding why I changed my name? Because after listening to this for several months, as well as enduring her weird interrogation of me and my life choices, I finally hit my breaking point, snapping at her in a way that I don't think anybody truly expected. Because at this point, I'm very frustrated and I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my brother is married to a woman who we will call Haley, and they're expecting a baby together. Last year, I officially changed my name from Evelyn to Indy, which was a nickname from my original middle name. My parents gave in after realizing how serious I was about being Indy and how I was not warming up to or even growing into being Evelyn. My brother and Haley want an older vintage name for their baby, and Haley asked me about 5 months ago why I disliked Evelyn enough to change the name. At the time, she brought up how popular the name has become and how vintage is back. But I told her I didn't like vintage names, and to me it sounded really old-fashioned. I told her the popularity didn't influence my decision, but she wanted to know the reason for my disliking older names and why I like something like Indy instead. And honestly, I didn't mind her asking the first time. Well, she brought it up again a week later, and she asked the same question and pressed more for why. She then asked a third and fourth time. I gave her the same answer, and I asked her why she kept asking me the same question. I told her my answer wasn't going to change, but when the 7th time came around that she asked me, she admitted that she was worried her baby would hate having an older name and wanted to figure out what she could do to prevent what happened to me happening to her. She also said that she'd like me to rethink my name because she thought Evelyn was beautiful, and she was sad that I chose something like Indy over it. I asked her to stop so many times already, and I even asked my brother to stop her, but he told me that I needed to understand that it was the hormones. And at this point, I can easily say that she's asked me this more than 25 times by now, and I wish I was exaggerating that number too, but I'm not. Well, fast forward, and 2 weeks ago when she brought it up again, she felt like I had made a mistake changing my name and how 30-year-old me wouldn't be so against Evelyn. I told her that 30-year-old me can deal with it when that happens. She told me that I didn't really have a good reason to like the name, and Indy seemed like the kind of name that someone young would like, but not someone older. Well, yesterday came along and I kind of lost my temper. She started out asking the same stuff, and the baby is almost ready to be born, so I know it's all coming to an end, but she asked me to really think about why and to help her, because she couldn't figure out what she'd do differently than what my parents did. Then she said that they really should not have let me change my name so young, and at that point, I finally snapped. I told her to stop asking me the same question, because my answer won't change, and her comments are not changing my mind because I don't like old-fashioned names. I told her that I think they're awful, and I'm sick and tired of hearing about how much better they are, and having her try to make me find a reason she finds acceptable. I told her that just like she hates Indy, I hate Evelyn, and she needs to let it go already. Well, after I snapped, she burst into tears, and my brother got so mad at me, and my parents even questioned why I spoke to her so harshly. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because seriously, I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, this is insane to me because Haley sounds like a complete moron. If someone asked me the same question 25 plus times and was somehow expecting a different answer every single time, I think I would also lose my mind. Like, why is she interrogating you over something so stupid? If she wants to name her kid something vintage, then go for it. But for them to bother the original poster like this and obsess over it for 5 months, like, that's not her pregnancy hormones. That's her being a control freak weirdo. As if your answer needs to change the 27th time that she asked it, because she's clearly looking for validation for the stupid name she's gonna name her kid. Like, seriously, get a grip. This is so insane. And the fact that anyone's like, whoa, why are you getting so mad? What's going on right now? It's like, are you kidding me? You've literally been bothered about this for months. She's asked you the same question over and over and over again. Like, I would lose my mind after the 10th time, let alone the 27th time. So no, you are definitely not the jerk in this situation, because the way Haley was acting was absolutely insane. An entitled Karen tries to get me fired after I refused to allow her to return items to our store that she had owned for literally over 3 years. Things got so bad that she even said she was going to sue us, all because of the way that I had treated treated her. And I'm honestly still blown away by this entitled Karen. Here's what happened. Years ago, I did retail customer service over the phone for a high-end retail company, the kind that sells single chairs for thousands of dollars. They have multiple brands they own, and our call center took calls for all of them. And this call regards their kids and teen brands. This woman calls in wanting to initiate a return, and 3 years ago, she bought a complete bedroom set from one of our kids' brands. She got bed, linen, tables, dressers, curtains, literally everything. It was not uncommon for people to call in and literally order an entire page out of our catalog. We had websites, but still sent out monthly catalogs as well. Rich people still like the catalogs, and the older generation would still place phone orders. She had bought the complete bedroom for her son, but now 3 years later, he was too big for all the furniture. She wanted to return everything that she bought for store credit and use that credit to buy all new items from our teen brands. Well, I politely advised her that we do have a 30-day return policy, and 3 years is far too outside that window for me to make any exceptions. Well, when I said that, this is when she threw an absolute temper tantrum. She started complaining about how she's been a customer for so long, and how dare I treat her this way. I then offered to give her a 10% discount if she wanted to place an order with me over the phone, and I could do that much without asking a supervisor, but that was still not good enough. She begins to demand that we send someone to her home to disassemble the furniture, pack all the items up, and take them back to the warehouse. She also wanted me to give her the store credit for the full value of the return right then and there over the phone, and give her a 25% discount on the new purchase because of how horribly I treated her by trying to refuse her return. So I tried to explain that she purchased the items from us, they were not leased or rented, and that 3 years was far beyond any reasonable exceptions for a 30-day return window. I suggested that she sell the items secondhand online, or even just have like a garage sale, but she went into a fit of rage. She started name-calling and making threats of lawsuit. Now, at this point, there is nothing I can do to make this woman happy, and I know my supervisor and even her boss won't meet any of this lady's demands. I hand her over to my supervisor, who still refused the return and upped the discount offer to over 20%. Well, she never got the return for her stuff, but did place a new order with my supervisor with a 20% discount. And of course, she gave me a nasty review on the survey that she was automatically sent after our phone call. Sadly, the company I worked for cards nothing about logic and still held the bogus negative survey against me. My supervisor even admitted that there was nothing that I had the power to do to make that customer happy, but there must have been something more I could have said to make her happy. But of course, my supervisor couldn't articulate what that would be, because that entitled Karen truly was just a miserable person. Wow, that is so unfair. Here you are trying to deal with some irrational human being, and you get blamed for something that absolutely is out of your control. Like, this lady really called up and was like, oh, I want to return items that we've used for 3 years. Also, give me a discount, and if you don't, I'm gonna get you fired. Like, what is happening right now? This is so crazy to me. Like, she went from 0 to 100, and in my eyes, that's like a clear indication that she's clearly trying to work the system. She knows she's not gonna be able to return these stupid items from 3 years ago, and unfortunately, you're the person she's gonna blame for that not happening. And it really just sucks that most customer service interactions really do end up like this. You have a spineless supervisor like the one you had to deal with, who was like, well, you could have done more, while also like not doing anything to advocate for you, and you have a customer who's blaming you for the 30-day return policy. It's like, lady, I just work here. I have nothing to do with that. The fact that she painted you as some horrible person and that you treated her horribly when you had nothing to do with her stupid decisions is absolutely baffling to me. So truly, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with this, because that entitled Karen was completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for ditching a wedding that I was the maid of honor for after I found out that the bride and groom were trying to set me up with the best man? But despite the fact that I had a long-term boyfriend and these people were acting insane, I'm still being blamed and treated as if I left for no reason. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was supposed to be the maid of honor at a wedding a few weeks ago, but I ended up just leaving and going home to my boyfriend of 6 years after the bride and groom tried to set me up with the best man. Now, for a bit of context, when my friend got engaged last year, I was excited for her, and even more excited when she asked me to be the maid of honor. As invites went out though, she asked me to not bring my boyfriend to the wedding. Now, I was really upset about that, but my boyfriend talked me down, telling me that weddings were expensive, and they were probably trying to keep the guest list down, and they didn't really know him, so it would be fine for me to go without him. That made sense to me, so I didn't say or do anything after that, and just continued with helping as I could as the maid of honor. honor. Nothing else really concerning happened again until a couple days before the wedding. The bride asked me to give the best man a ride to and from the wedding, which was about a 4-hour drive. Now, I just thought it was part of it as he was a veteran and had his own issues surrounding that. So I gave him a ride up to the Airbnb that we were staying at before the wedding. The whole time he tried to make conversation that was just weird to me and was just not into it and just trying my best to be nice to him. At the Airbnb with everyone, I immediately noticed that things were off. All of the other bridesmaids had their boyfriends there, and things were really awkward when I found out I was in a room with the best man. The next day before the rehearsal dinner, the bride and groom cornered me in a room to say that the best man was an incredible guy and that I was blowing him off without really giving him a chance. But I told them, well, of course not, because I have a serious long-term boyfriend which you guys specifically told me not to bring. It was then that the bride cut in and told me, well, that really isn't that serious since he hasn't proposed in so long. Well, I argued back that we were both still in school, and that's the reason why. We continued arguing for just a little while before I finally just said forget it and that I'm going home. I got called all sorts of awful names going out of the room, but I ended up packing up my stuff and then I left. I got a lot of calls on the way home, which I ignored until my boyfriend called. Apparently, the bride called him and told him I just left for no reason, and he called to check in on me. But I told him everything that had just happened, and he was kind of dumbstruck by all of it. Anyways, after the wedding, I've had the bride, the groom, and a lot of their friends call or message me, telling me how horrible of a person I was for just leaving the night before the wedding for no reason, and none of which were receptive to my side of things, and it's starting to worry me that maybe I overreacted by just leaving like that. So am I the jerk in this situation for leaving early? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. This is insane. The bride, the groom, literally anybody who's trying to be like, oh, why did you leave for no reason? All of them are gaslighting you, and every single one of them are horrible people. Because the bride and groom knew that you had a boyfriend. They knew you had a boyfriend, and they still made you bring this guy to the wedding, and also try to have you room with him. Like, that is crazy. Just because your boyfriend hasn't proposed to you doesn't mean that you're somehow available to get set up with the best man. And also, it's incredibly creepy. Like, they literally set you up, and you had to drive for 4 hours with this guy. Why on earth would they feel like they can ruin your relationship? Also that they can, like, I don't know, set you up with this guy that you've never met before. And what were they expecting with you guys rooming together? Like, seriously, this is so bizarre, it's not even funny. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, and you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing, because what they did crossed a serious line and an obvious boundary that you would expect them to try and keep. Because for them to set you up like that is incredibly toxic and very manipulative. Am I the jerk for getting a babysitter? All because my mom was keeping my daughter from going to a daycare. Because right now I'm still very pissed off at my mom, while she's also supposedly pissed off at me for keeping my daughter away from her. Here's what happened. So I'm a single mom with a 4-year-old daughter who we will call Sarah. Sarah and I live with my mom. We both work, and Sarah goes to daycare full time. Now, daycare would be about half my income, so I get a subsidy that covers $1,400 out of the $2,000 tuition. The only condition of the subsidy is that she actually has to show up. If she misses too many days, I lose the subsidy. I go to work at 7:30 in the morning, and the daycare opens at 8 o'clock, so my mom would be the one to take Sarah to daycare. Sarah's main teacher is a 21-year-old girl. When I've talked to her, she's always been very animated and very energetic. She's great with kids, and Sarah always comes home saying this teacher brought stickers, she brought juice and bubbles, she did face painting, etc., and always has fun crafts that she did with her teacher. This teacher is her favorite person in the world right now, and Sarah often runs away from my mom to jump on this teacher in the mornings and hides when my mom picks her up because she doesn't want to leave this teacher. Well, my mom started to get jealous that Sarah likes the teacher better than her, so she started keeping her home from daycare on her days off or when she has only 1 to 2 easy clients. And it was then that I found out Sarah missed 5 days over the past 3 weeks. I asked my mom about it, and she told me she wanted Sarah to spend more time with family instead of with teachers. But I told my mom that Sarah needs to be in daycare unless she's sick, or I would lose the subsidy. She was arguing that if Sarah needs to be in daycare, she should be in one with more family values, and not some rich white girl trying to save the poor kids. For reference, the teacher is a girl from a well-off family marrying into another well-off family, and the daycare isn't in the most well-off neighborhood in the first place. She has bins full of clothing for the kids, gave everyone a water bottle with their name on it, has a much nicer classroom than the other teachers, and drives a car worth more than my mom and I combined could make in a year. She's setting up a field trip to the local airport so her fiance can talk to the kids about flying planes, and so that they could also look at his jet. yet? Well, when she tried to say this, I told her that I wouldn't. This is the best daycare that takes this subsidy, and I won't be moving her just because she's jealous. She was still insisting on Sarah either being with family or being in a more family-based daycare, so I got her a babysitter. I dropped her off to my neighbor at 7:30 when I leave for work, and she drops Sarah off at 8:15 on her way to take her kids to school. She only charges me $10 a day, and while I don't love the breakfast that she does give to Sarah, in the end, at least I know she's going to daycare, and I won't lose the subsidy. Well, my mom is now pissed off that I'm keeping Sarah away from her. So am I the jerk for sending Sarah off to a babysitter, all because of the things that my mom did? What should I do? No, you are definitely not in the wrong. What your mom did is absolutely insane. She literally decided, oh wow, I don't like the fact that my granddaughter isn't spending enough time with me. So now she's like, okay, we're gonna ruin your chance at this daycare. I'm gonna keep you home with me. That way you'll like me instead of that teacher. But it's like, what are you talking about? Shouldn't you be excited that this kid has a teacher that she likes? Because chances are later in life, she's not gonna have very good teachers that she's gonna have to deal with. So the fact that the original poster's mom stepped in and was like, no, you're gonna spend time with me. Like that is so weird, and it completely puts the original poster in jeopardy. Like they will literally lose that money that they're getting if they don't take their kid to this daycare. So the mom in this story is just completely ruining the entire process. So on that end, I don't blame you in the slightest for getting somebody else to take her to that daycare. Like if $10 is all it takes a day to make sure that happens, especially compared to what your mom put you through, then in my opinion, that's well worth it. Because what your mom did was completely unacceptable, and it gave you an unnecessary financial risk. Am I the jerk for taking over a family therapy session after my dad and his wife practically forced me and my sister to go to these sessions in the first place? Because right now they're very upset with me for taking over an entire session and telling them exactly how I feel about our family and the house. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male, and I'm currently in family therapy with my dad, his wife, my sister, and my 3 step-siblings, ages 10, 9, and 7. This blended family thing is pretty new still, with my dad being remarried for 2 years. My mom passed away, so I only have one home. And I'll be honest, I was never excited or really into the whole blended family thing, but I know that's not my decision. All 3 of my step-siblings have food allergies, and 2 have really bad ones. So the way we eat changed a lot. And this included places we eat at that were part of traditions. For most of my life, we would eat at this local noodle bar in town for the end of the school year, and we would also do this whenever we had some kind of school thing going on, such as a play or a graduation or some kind of report card. But now we're not allowed to go there anymore because of the allergies. Even just with my dad, it's a no-go. We can't bring ice cream into the house anymore because my step-siblings can't eat it, and only my dad and his wife can prepare food, so no more making a sandwich for myself either. Birthdays have also changed. My sister and I can no longer eat our preferred restaurant of choice because of my step-siblings, and we can't bring my favorite dish into the house either. So now it's a place that my step-siblings love and is acceptable for their allergies. For 2 years, Dad has talked about how glad we are to make all these changes and how family is worth it. About 4 months ago, his wife noticed my sister and I weren't engaged with the family in the way she thought we would be. We didn't talk to her about it, but she also noticed that my sister had cut me and her out of some photos of all of us and used just me and her for her room's art wall. So because of all of this, she and Dad decided we needed some family therapy. Since we started about 2 months ago officially, there's been a lot about what the problem is and why we're there, and explaining the problem. And my dad also talked about all the good from a blended family, and he talks about all the changes and about how happy we all are to make them. Well, last week I got so sick of it, and the therapist asked me if I was truly okay with them, and I just went off. I said, no, I'm not. I hate the changes. I stated that it's unfair, that I never said I wanted my step-siblings to celebrate my birthday more than I wanted my favorite foods, that these things were decided for me. I said I never would have made that decision because celebrating with them isn't important to me. I'd rather have a good time with the people that I love and enjoy food that I love instead. And I also said that I hate not being able to make a sandwich or buy snacks after school. I basically went off for the whole session between a rant and answering questions the therapist put to me. Well, my dad is now so mad at me for doing it, and his wife was really upset because her kids heard it. But she was also upset because she accepted on some level that I didn't want this ever. She was also kind of mad that I took up a whole session with my rant. So am I the jerk in this situation for taking over a family therapy? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, because guess what? You didn't want to go to this therapy in the first place. If these people are going to force you into it, well, congratulations, let's have therapy. Let's really talk about what the issues are. And trust me, I completely understand where you're coming from, where you're you're like, look, I've got no autonomy over my life. I literally can't do anything anymore, and you people are trying to act like this is all okay with me. Because guess what? It's not. Like, this is something that needs to be said. If your dad and the wife really thought this would be like, oh yeah, we're so happy. We're so happy about all these decisions that we've made. Look how happy all the kids are. Like, they're crazy because any therapist worth their weight in gold would look around and instantly be like, nah, something's off. What's really going on here? So no, of course you're not the jerk for taking up a session. And the fact that anyone would be mad at you is so telling that they are absolutely at fault. Like, why would they want a therapy session if they didn't want the truth? Did they think this therapy session would be like, oh yeah, let's convince him that he should be okay with this? Like, it really seems like this was some kind of weird ploy to try and get you on board by using a therapist against you, but I'm so glad that it backfired and you were able to say your piece, because your dad and his wife are completely at fault in this situation. And for them to pretend like this is all just completely okay, in my opinion, is super toxic. Am I the jerk for choosing my extended family over my dad after he gave me the ultimatum that I needed to choose one or the other? Because right now he is very upset, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. I'm a 17-year-old male, and my dad remarried when I was 8 years old and made a blended family with his wife and her 2 kids. Then they had 2 kids together, so I have step-siblings and half-siblings. My mom's family were a big part of my life for the first 6 years, and then my dad and them fought because my dad had met his wife by then, and he didn't like their reaction to the news. Essentially, he wanted to invite them over for my grandparents' yearly family barbecue, and my grandparents didn't want to include them. They told him that they couldn't accept my mom's replacement. He then got mad at them for feeling that's what he's been doing, and he told them they could forget about seeing either of us ever again. He tried to keep me from them, but they filed for grandparents' rights, and my dad's lawyer said that they would win. So he said I could see them once every 3 months for 4 hours, and it was way less than what I was used to, but it didn't stop me from being close to them. He invited them to his wedding, and they didn't show up, and this pissed him off more, and then he got super weird about it, and he suddenly started demanding invites again for his wife's kids when I was invited, and then when my half-siblings were born, he was including them in the attempt to force my family's hands, but they never invited them. They did ask me if I wanted them there, and I said not really, so they didn't change their mind. My dad always complained about them whenever my visits would come around. He really hated that I went, and that my step-siblings and my half-siblings couldn't. He tried to tell me that I should advocate for them to all be included, but I never replied to him because it was easier not to. Once I turned 14 years old, he got worse with that stuff, and he would complain that I was calling and texting them, and that I was keeping in touch more than once every 3 months. He would tell me they hate my siblings, that he didn't want us to have our family, but I told him that didn't upset me or make me mad, and it didn't change that I wanted to see them. The day I went back to school, which was my senior year, my dad told me since I was graduating in May that I would be 18 years old, and he needed to make it clear that I will need to choose, because I can't keep spreading time with people who refuse to include most of my family, and he basically said right then and there that I have to choose my family or them. Well, I told him that them were my family, and I would absolutely choose them. He didn't expect that answer, and he got pissed off, and told me I should always choose siblings over extended family. Then he acted like I hadn't given him an answer, because he told me that when he and his wife throw me a graduation party, I won't be allowed to invite my mom's side of the family. But I told him he doesn't need to throw me one because they would, and that I would make it clear that my choice will be them. My dad told me that isn't how it works, but I told him it is because he gave the ultimatum, and he needs to live with the consequences. He accused me of twisting his words and disrespecting him by throwing that in his face. So I honestly need to know, am I the jerk in this situation for all that's been going on? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because your dad has clearly villainized your entire extended family. He has gone out of his way to try and convince you that they're bad people, while also saying you need to either choose them or us. And based on what you've described and the way he treats you in regards to them, I would choose my extended family all day if I was in your shoes. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because the way your dad acted is honestly completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress after she made fun of my body and put me down? Because right now I'm very upset and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I've always had a bit of a rocky relationship with my older sister. She's 26 years old, and we're pretty different in a lot of ways. She's always been super into fashion and makeup, while I'm more laid back and focus on school and work. Despite our differences, I thought we were at least civil until recently. My sister is getting married next year, and she's been really excited about finding the perfect wedding dress. Since she's trying to save money for other wedding costs, she asked asked if I could help pay for her dress as a sisterly gesture. I recently got a decent paying job and was willing to help her out even though I thought it was a weird request. Fast forward to a few weeks ago and we were at a family gathering and I was wearing this dress that I felt good in, but I'm not a size 2. Well, out of nowhere, my sister made a snarky comment in front of everyone, saying how brave I was for wearing something so tight. I was embarrassed, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I let it slide. Well, later that night, she made another comment, and this time in private, about how she would never wear something like that unless she lost weight first. And when she said that, I got upset and told her that what she said really hurt my feelings, but she brushed it off, saying that she was just being honest. And now I don't feel like helping her out anymore with the wedding dress. And when I told her this, she flipped out, calling me selfish and petty, and she says that I'm ruining her big day over a joke, and that it's not fair for me to back out when I already agreed to help. My parents say I should just let it go and help her out, since apparently that's what sisters do, but I feel like she's completely crossed a line. So am I the jerk for backing out after she made fun of me? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what she did was completely inappropriate, and I don't blame you for being like, wait a second, why should I help you out? Because in my opinion, if you're going to be joking about something, then everybody in the room needs to be laughing. And if the joke is about you and you're not laughing, then guess what? It's not a joke. It's literally them bullying you in a really mean way. And jokes at someone else's expense are not jokes. Like, that's just you being rude. And your sister absolutely meant those comments too, by the way. You probably already know this, but she's disguising her comments as jokes to try and get away with it. So no, I don't blame you for backing out of that, because if I was in your shoes and I got disrespected in this way, I would have absolutely done the exact same thing. Two entitled old Karens demand that I move my table so that they can sit there instead of me, complaining that the other tables were in the sun. And despite the fact that I had my schoolwork all laid out on this table and that I'd been there for almost an hour, these two Karens were refusing to take no for an answer, resulting in me having to shut them down right then and there. Here's what happened. So this happened earlier today and I still can't believe it. I had an exam at my university, but before that, I had a class that left me with about 2.5 hours of free time. So I decided to head to a coffee shop nearby to do some last-minute studying. It's a spot where a lot of students go to study with their laptops, and usually you don't really see anyone there over 30 since it's literally right across my university. The weather was nice, so I decided to sit outside. It was around 1:30 p.m., so the place was pretty empty. Plenty of open tables both outside and inside. I ordered my coffee and started studying my notes spread out. And about 45 minutes later, I noticed two older women, probably around 75 to 78 years old, looking at me and glancing around the coffee shop. It was a bit odd, but I didn't think much of it at first. They sat down at a table, but then they got up and started walking towards me, which felt even weirder. I figured maybe they wanted an extra chair for my table, but no. They came up to me and asked if they could sit at my table. Now, I was confused and told them that there were plenty of empty tables around, including one right next to mine. But they said to me, no, we want to sit at this table because the other tables are in the sun and we don't want to sit there. And it really took me a second to process this. Were they really expecting me to move so they could have my table? Especially while I was clearly studying with my notes and everything laid out? I told them again that there were plenty of other tables available and that I didn't understand why they wanted mine, but they kept insisting, can we sit here? And at this point, I wasn't sure if they wanted to sit with me or if they expected me to leave. But either way, I said, no, you can't. And then I went back to my work. Well, when I said that, they looked so offended, as if I had somehow personally insulted them. After that, they went to the waitress and started complaining about the situation. But obviously, there wasn't much the waitress could do. Eventually, they ended up leaving the cafe clearly annoyed. And this is by far, honestly, one of the most entitled experiences from an old person I've ever had in my life. Yeah, that's super weird in my opinion. You don't go up to someone who's clearly established at a table and be like, okay, we want your table. Can we sit here instead of you? The other table's in the sun. We don't want to deal with that. It's like, I'm sorry, but I got here first. That's the way these things go. Like, I took the time to snag this spot, so I absolutely should be entitled to it. And it's not like you're about to get up anytime soon either. You had 2.5 hours to study, and this is, relatively speaking, a quiet place to study on campus. So for these two old people to be like, yeah, you gotta move, I want to sit there. Like, that's super weird and just super entitled. And they should not have treated you like that because you definitely did not deserve it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not using my trust fund to save my best friend from becoming homeless? Because right now she's facing eviction, and after I said no, that I won't pay for her rent, she called me stingy and selfish, saying that her siblings are going to be homeless and it's gonna be my fault. Here's what happened. So in my country, every kid automatically gets a trust fund from the government that they receive when they turn 18, and the amount depends on how much the parents contribute to it, with most people getting around $1,000 to $2,000. My best friend received her trust fund back in April and got nearly $2,000 in total. She was really generous and decided to treat our entire friend group to dinner at an expensive restaurant. She also bought us multiple gifts, including giving me a paintbrush set, a book, a ring, some lip balm, and a scented candle. We all thought this was super sweet of her, and we were extremely grateful. A month later, I also received my trust fund on my 18th birthday, and it turns out that my parents had saved up nearly $20,000. I knew they had been saving up money for me, but I didn't realize it was this much. So I decided to learn from my friends' actions, and I took everyone out for brunch and I bought them each jewelry. Not long after that, my friend's family went through financial troubles. My friend used what was remaining of her trust fund to help out her family, but it wasn't enough. They're currently facing eviction if they don't pay the rent. And my friend reached out to me last week asking me for help and was practically begging me for over $100. Now, I feel bad, but I refused. I'm going to university very soon and I need that money. Buying gifts is one thing, but paying her rent might make her dependent on me, and she might continue asking me for rent money because I agreed one time. Well, when I said no, my friend was really upset with me, calling me selfish. She said that it's not like I need that much money anyways, since my parents would be paying for my university fees and my accommodation fees. Meanwhile, she has to take out student loans and get 2 jobs. She has 2 younger siblings ages 6 and 10, and she called me stingy for allowing them to be homeless, even though I have more than enough to help. I felt guilty, but I told her it's not my responsibility to take care of her family. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your friend is trying to use her younger siblings against you to try and be like, wow, you're gonna let them go homeless? And it's like, no, I'm not allowing anything. You're the one that can't pay for it. You are not to blame, all because they need money for rent. And honestly, if they really are like on the verge of homelessness, I would just give them the $100 and be like, okay, here you go, but I can't help you from here on out. Like, obviously, if you have the money, you should totally help out. But I totally understand your reasoning of being like, sorry, I can't help you. And also, the way that she bit your hand and basically treated you like garbage, all because you said no, you're not gonna help her out, like that, in my opinion, really stands out as like a manipulation tactic, especially when she's trying to be like, oh, think of the children. But it's like, seriously, why would you throw that at my doorstep and then try to blame me if you can't pay your rent? Like, why would you let it get to that point and then try to pretend like this is my fault all because you didn't plan properly, and then call the person that would help you out stingy when they're like, no, I can't help you out with this? Like, that's not only incredibly backwards, but it also makes me think that maybe they're not being completely honest. I don't know, maybe they are being honest, but it definitely seems like they're trying to trick you into getting some money. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for keeping that money in your trust fund, because that's meant for college. And in my opinion, that's exactly where it should go towards. My wife is constantly complaining about work and life, and is always being short with me and very rude. And now I'm questioning if she might be acting entitled, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been thinking about this topic for a long time now, but as always, it's hard to find an answer without some other opinions. So if anyone here wants to weigh in to help me out, please feel more than welcome to do so. Now on to the actual case. I've been married to my current wife for almost 3 years, and overall it's great. We have our ups and downs just like everybody else, but we've always worked our problems out. However, there are some things my wife does that hurt me deeply, and she knows it but still does it. Firstly, she's always offended when I try to have some social life with a circle of friends from work. According to her, we never do things together, and it seems that I prefer to go out with friends rather than with her. Now, I would agree with her if it wasn't the fact that she refuses to go out whenever I ask her. She's always exhausted from work because she hates her current job, and it puts her on a frantic routine. That means I would never go out if I couldn't go with my friends. I understand how tired she constantly is and how lonely she may feel, but I wonder if there's any entitlement to complain about going out if she never feels like doing that. Secondly, she's always pissed at me for the pettiest of reasons. For example, last night we went to a comedy show that she really wanted to go to and got pissed off because when the show ended, I asked her out to have dinner, and why not just have some drinks as well? But I didn't know already where to go. After not even 5 minutes, she was already extremely annoyed and saying, let's just go home. Eventually, I found a place for us to go out, but from the moment that she felt annoyed on, she was always on the phone and almost never even looked at me in the eyes. Thirdly, she complains a lot. Sometimes she even belittles me when she has the chance. For example, her period started this last night, and today she told me, if you were feeling the pain that I'm under right now, you wouldn't even stand up. And I get that she feels a lot of pain during those times, and it makes her feel like crap, but it offends me because she's the one that constantly complains about pain pain and tiredness. I never complain about those things, especially because I don't feel I have a space at home to do so, and in the end, I just suck up all the pain that I feel. I never tell her when I have migraines, even though I have chronic migraines all the time, and I know how painful those can strike. Adding to the previous point, she also constantly complains to me about her co-working friends as if they're living their lives wrong. There's this woman that broke up her relationship recently, and all she wants to do is go out and drink, and my wife always comments to me how she's not well for doing this, and that she should seek therapy. At those moments, I'm always thinking to myself, let that woman live her life. That is her way of dealing with everything that she's going through. And when I don't agree with my wife, I'm the inconsiderate one that doesn't create a safe space for her. Fourth, and I promise this is the final point, she wants to receive lots of love without giving me anything. If I get a mere pat on the head or a scratch in my beard, that's a day that she gave me a lot. On the other hand, I have to constantly spoil her, whether I feed her, cuddle with her until she's hot and dismisses me, or give her massages. Literally, she asks me to massage her calves every single day at least twice. Now, I hope I was able to describe everything as impartial as possible, because I'm really struggling to find out if that behavior is entitlement or not. But you know what? It strikes a doubt in me when I feel she should say I'm sorry and just doesn't. That's something I almost never hear, and thinking about it sometimes makes me feel very hurt. So I'm honestly not sure if she's being entitled or not, because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be completely honest, it doesn't sound like your wife is being entitled, but instead, it kinda sounds like she's depressed. I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to diagnose her, but it sounds like she is not in a good place, and it kinda makes sense why she would be like really short with you and tired all the time, and just overall really frustrated with life. You've described a lot of things that I've personally experienced in my own life, where I hate my job, I'm in pain, and I just don't like what's going on in life. And this feels super similar. And on that note, the original poster actually did clarify that yes, she is depressed. She has been apparently diagnosed by her therapist, so it sounds like that's at least a good step in the right direction, because what you described does not sound good for either of you, and I really hope this works out sooner than later. An entitled customer demands to get service outside of our work hours by practically begging me in the parking lot to help him before I leave. And even though I told him that we are quite literally closed as I'm locking up the store, this guy refused to take no for an answer. Here's what happened. So I don't know if my job counts as retail, as its main service is shipping packages for customers, but we do sell stuff as well, so I think it qualifies. I had just finished shutting down the computers and running end of day on the point of sale, and was in the bathroom changing out of uniform when I heard someone try to open the locked door, but I don't think much of it and I just continued to change. The phone started ringing, but since it was after hours, I ignored it. After it went to voicemail, they called again, but still, since we're closed, I ignored it. Once I finished changing, I took my stuff up front and started to pull the gate out and sliding it into place. Well, the customer sees this and knocks on the window. I look at him and I shake my head and he goes back to his car. I finish locking up and leave the store, ensuring the door is locked one last time before leaving. Well, that's when the customer walks up to me. They then say, it says online that you're open until later. So I have to inform them that during the week we're open until that time, but on Saturdays we close early. Well, after I say that, he tries to argue again by saying, it says otherwise online. But I just simply tell him that whatever website he got that from is completely wrong. He then looks at me and says, so you won't help me? And I just respond by saying nope, and then I walk off. But like seriously, the lights are off, the gate is shut, the door is locked, and the sole employee is leaving the building. How many more signs do you need to understand that we are closed? Also, don't come up and expect service from an employee who's clocked out, especially as I've locked up and I'm walking out at the end of the day. Man, when I work customer service, I could not stand that. Here you are locking up for the day and someone literally walks up right as you close and they're like, wait a second, you're supposed to be open. And the truth of the matter is that they know that the store's not open longer. They're the ones that messed up and didn't get there sooner, and now they have to face the consequences of not being there on time, while also simultaneously trying to make this your problem. And it's always the same attitude of entitlement, where they try to pretend like, oh man, this is such an injustice against me. Are you really not gonna help me out? Like, that's insanely entitled and so obnoxious. So good for you for standing your ground, because this guy was absolutely out of line. An entitled Karen and her kids make my life a living nightmare as their server, as she acted incredibly rude, was condescending, and refused to even give me a tip after making my life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. So we had a family of 5 come in 30 minutes before closing, and we didn't really care, as we still had a good amount of tables dining in still. I go to greet them and I'm mid-conversation asking how they are when the mom yells out that she wants all waters. I ask them if they have any questions over the menu, and the mom says that she's struggling between 2 of our plates. I let her know which one of those is a usual customer favorite, and then suddenly she replied with a super rude tone by saying, yeah, yeah, I know, I've ate here before. And I just thought to myself, well, okay then. Eventually they get the meals, and she tells me that everything looks like it was just slapped on together and there's no love in the food. So I just let her know that we can remake what she doesn't like because honestly, it's just not worth the back and forth. I bring her a new meal, and she leaves it alone but keeps complaining to me about how it wasn't okay. I just apologize because at this point, I just want them to eat and go home. They all ordered milkshakes, and when I brought them out, she joked by saying the milkshakes were free because I took more than 5 minutes to make 5 milkshakes. And again, I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, whatever. They then proceeded to pay, and they immediately put no tip on the tip options, to which at that point, I was just getting fed up. Meanwhile, they pay, and her kid is running around the restaurant with her milkshake, and all of a sudden, we see her kid drop the milkshake all over the floor. I walk by, and guess what? They just laugh. Not even say sorry or anything like that. They just laughed at the mess they made, and then they left. And honestly, I hope they never come back because they were an absolute nightmare. Yeah, I can't stand customers like this because they really just don't care. They're not going to tip you, nothing ever is going to be good enough for them, and any mistake that anybody makes is going to be your fault even if you didn't do it. And the first meal that she got is a perfect example of that. Oh, it was slapped together, there was no love in this food. And it's like, yeah, there's no love in the food because you came in 30 minutes before closing, and you've been short with me and rude and given me an attitude since like the second you walked in. So yes, I totally understand where the original poster's coming from because this kind of customer is honestly so annoying to deal with. My mom is constantly criticizing my behavior while refusing to ever listen to anything I ever have to say about her. And now after enduring this my entire life, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, my mother and I have been through a lot. We've had multiple phases of our relationship being rocky, and this year it's only been getting worse and worse. The beginning of the summer, I gave her an ultimatum. If we are not able to work through all of this on our own, we need a therapist, and the boundary that she's not allowed to say things that invalidate my experience, such as I never did that or that didn't happen. Yesterday, my mom does one of those things that she does where she says, I'm going to tell you something that you probably won't like to hear. And this time it's a familiar one. She said to me, I feel like you don't care about contributing to the household because you won't give me your school grant money that's left over after your tuition is paid. And when she said this, I just shut up because we've had this conversation 5 times. It's not worth me telling her the same things I always tell her just for a fight to break out. So I leave it and I walk away. Then less than an hour later, she's like, I have something else I want to say. And at that point, I just tell her no. I tell her I don't want to talk. I don't want to repeat the same conversations that we've had. But she always pushes me and I just blow up a little. She expresses that she thinks that she's had an epiphany as to why she's feeling the way she does. And I just say, okay, I'm sorry that I blew up. Let me just calm down for a minute. We go on to have a fairly productive conversation until I apparently trigger her. Now, I use the word trigger loosely, and it's not because I don't think triggers are real or any of that stuff, but rather because this particular trigger is any description of her behavior as being negative. In fact, there are several words that are banned because of this trigger, and we're talking words like yell, shout, scream, snap, snarl, gripe, complain, criticize, raise your voice, nasty, mean, loud, tense, angry. I mean, you name it, it's pretty much banned. We were having a productive conversation about appreciation and the ability to show it. She was talking about how she wishes I would do work in front of her or talk to her about how she looks tired, etc. And I was expressing the fact that I taught myself to never do these things because some of the times it's the wrong thing to do and then she screams at me. And obviously I didn't say that because I was dancing around her supposed trigger words, but I think you catch my drift. I believe my exact sentence was that you can have a negative reaction, snap or yell at me, or just be upset. Her reaction to this trigger is always resorting to dismissing what I'm telling her and telling me that it didn't happen. She then said to me, this is really hard for me to hear from you right now because I haven't yelled at you for years. Now, we had a fight at the beginning of the summer that led to me giving her that ultimatum about finding a therapist, in which I finally managed to meet all of her requirements of me regulating my behavior and walked away appropriately, even though she was screaming like crazy at me from the kitchen as I was going down the stairs. So I just walked away, which is something I told her I would do every time she invalidates my experience. And in fact, we didn't talk for the rest of that day. Today, people are sleeping in, and I see on my phone that she had to go out at 2 o'clock in the morning to help a family friend. So I take care of the dogs. Now, while I'm finishing up my breakfast in the kitchen, suddenly everyone in the household is present. My mother says thank you for feeding the dogs, and I want to be nasty to her. I'm frustrated about the day before, and I'm angry at her. And I'm resentful that she can go about her way to help this random kid, but she doesn't care enough about our relationship to manage her own triggers. So I don't say anything. I ignore her and I take my food and then I just leave. leave. I don't trust myself enough in that moment to say anything nice, so I don't say anything. Now, not immediately, but within the next 5 minutes, she comes down to my room and asks me if I'm not speaking to her. And I say, no, I'm not. She then says, well, why not? And I respond by saying that I'm feeling angry right now. Well, apparently this is unacceptable to her. She's then telling me, well, why could you possibly be angry? It went so well. Everyone did great. Meanwhile, she's standing in my doorway, trapping me in my room and trapping me in this conversation, demanding an explanation for why I feel the way I'm feeling and why I chose not to engage with her. I did my best to stay as calm as I could and communicate clearly about what I was feeling and why, but nothing I said was acceptable to her. It wasn't okay that I felt angry because of her actions. It wasn't okay that I felt frustrated that she's unable to even try to manage her own triggers. It wasn't okay that I'm upset that I'm always the one who has to remove myself from the situation. And she's standing there glaring at me, asking me to calm down. I have no way to walk away. She has trapped me in my room in this conversation and is repeatedly telling me that nothing happened. And I have to scream at her that she needs to leave in order to get her out of my doorway and get out of this conversation. She's allowed to tell me anytime that I'm too loud, or I sound angry, or that I'm shouting, or I'm screaming, or anything. And she's even allowed to tell me that I'm invalidating her feelings anytime she wants to, or that I need to calm down or walk away. But she never walks away. She never manages her triggers, or even treats me with the baseline respect of assuming that I'm not lying to make her look bad. I'm just so sick of this. She thinks she's entitled to my emotional support of her at any point in time, without regards of what I'm thinking or feeling, and she's entitled to say whatever she wants about my behavior. But if I criticize her, I'm the bad guy and nothing happened. She never apologizes for her behavior, she never makes amends, and she never changes her behavior. She thinks she's entitled to my constant improvement without putting any effort into our relationship. I wish to God that I didn't have to live here. My life is the best it's been in a long time, and she seems set on making sure that the beginning of my semester is a nightmare. I am so close to being able to take an actual career and actually break free of this garbage. I'm about to get a goal I've been working for so long to reach. She doesn't see that she's burning these bridges between us by refusing to even try and improve our relationship. Because right now, I'm extremely frustrated, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this bluntly, but I really think that your mom's a narcissist. Like, she is absolutely hitting all the marks, in my head at least, of someone who is clearly trying to manipulate you and treat you like garbage. Like, my God, if I was in your shoes, I would be moving out yesterday. Like, there's no way I would want to live with that. Clearly, you're a way better person than me because you're at least trying to make this relationship work, but man, this sounds like a rough one. So seriously, I really hope you're able to get out of there sooner than later because your mom sounds like an absolute jerk. My toxic entitled classmate tries to pass off my hard work as his own during our group project, all while I'm recovering in the emergency room. So I decided to get some revenge by not only ensuring that my professor was aware of everything going on, but also making sure that he couldn't take credit for anything that I worked on. Here's what happened. So this happened a few semesters ago where I was taking a course in urban design. Everyone was grouped in threes, but one of my group members wanted to join another group with their friend. So I ended up with one other person. I'm not sure why the professor thought this was okay, but I wasn't too worried because I was fairly confident in my ability to do the work. The course incorporated previous studio courses to tie together in a massive topic of urban planning, which included architectural design, environmental sustainability, urban infrastructure, and historic preservation. I tried to brainstorm with my partner on which direction we should go. My idea was focused on residents, as housing would address a huge demand here in New York City. However, my partner seemed content on making the project about industrial buildings, so I just focused there. We brainstormed on different ideas, but got the impression that he just wanted me to take the lead, as he mostly agreed while not really giving much input. Well, weeks went by, and I constantly updated my partner on my progress via WhatsApp, while rarely getting any kind of feedback or updates from him. It annoyed me a bit, but I was still confident in my work, which was enough to get us through the next checkpoint during our next presentation. Well, at some point during the semester, I got a really terrible kidney stone. It wasn't from junk food or a poor diet. In fact, it was from eating too much black beans and chickpeas. Now, as a side note, I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of foods, which I used to come up with a meal plan that meets my macro needs. Now, I did feel better with my new diet, but it eventually led to me having my worst kidney stone of my life that ended up putting me in the emergency room. I was on all kinds of pain medications, and I had to stay there for several nights. But it didn't end there. The stone was so big that it got stuck, and I ended up needing surgery to put in a stent. I had to wait several more weeks and endure a lot lot of pain and have to have another surgery just to remove the stent, all before I was finally recovering. Now, throughout this whole time, I managed to put in some work into my project. But you know what? I was surprised to learn that my partner did absolutely nothing and waited for me to continue my work. Like, what is going on? To make it even worse, I learned that he tried to present my work as his own. I mean, how can people be like that? I emailed my professor about my situation. I explained how I've done all the work so far and sent him screenshots of the chat, as well as my project file, which includes all of the history logs. The professor reminded me that during the final submission, everyone had to put their initials on the slides of the work that they worked on. And I thought to myself, okay, you got it. And it's right then that I started to plan. Now, luckily, I was recovered and ready to present my work, but I left out the initials as it wasn't required for the presentation and only for the final submission. And I did this because I really felt the need to see what he would do. I even tried to cut him some slack and gave him some talking points on the parts that I'd allow him to claim as his own, even though it was fully my work. But you know what? He didn't. He kept cutting me off during the presentation to talk about my project as if he had anything to do with it. He mostly repeated the same information that I mentioned while not bringing anything of value to point out. The final presentation had several judges who were comprised of local professionals in high-level positions within the industry. The conversation was always directed at me, so I had a good feeling that everyone understood that I did most of the work as I knew all the intimate knowledge of the parts. Then came the last day to submit our work. The final slides included my initials on every single page. Apparently, my partner missed that part about the initials and also submitted an older version of my work. A few weeks go by and I hit him up asking what he got, and I was surprised to learn that he actually passed with a C+, but he was even more surprised to hear that I received an A- and promptly said he will have a talk with the professor on why he received such a low grade. So honestly, why are these people like this? But regardless, at the end of the day, I did do everything as instructed, and as a result, I ended up with one heck of a semester. Man, this story really makes me mad because this absolutely is so unfair. Here you are in the hospital, and you find out that your project partner is trying to pass off your work as your own. Like, that's enough to make me go crazy, and that really would tick me off beyond end. So truly, good for you for getting back at this guy, because for him to try and take your work like that is truly incredibly toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job is quite literally the most exhausting environment I've ever worked at, and I seriously hope I never work in a place like this ever again. Here's what happened. So I work at a gas station/grocery store, and it is actually my first time working in this type of environment, and it most likely will be my last. I have become completely mentally drained by how dumb people truly are. I mean, I knew people were dumb, but I had no idea just how dumb. It's like there is a stupid contest, and every 30 minutes a new contestant shows up to try and one-up the other one. In fact, just today alone, I had 2 transactions that have blown my mind, and I'm not even halfway through my shift. Contestant number 1 is this guy that looks to be about 30 years old, and he looks pretty normal. He has just a few things to ring up, and we do so as normal. When it's time to pay, he swipes his card and just blankly stares at the pin pad. He looks at me and I look at him, and there's a good bit of awkward silence between the two of us. He then finally says to me with the most blank expression, "It's asking me if I want cash back, but I don't want cash back." So I say to him, please push the button that says no, as there is literally only 2 button options on the screen. He can either press yes or no. He keeps staring at me in complete radio silence. I then just reach over the counter and push the button for him, as I simply don't have time for this. There are people waiting after all. But yet again, he stares in silence, saying, "No, it's asking for my PIN number." And at this point, I'm in disbelief. So I tell him, okay, well, enter your PIN number. And thankfully, he does so without hesitation. We then finish the transaction, and thankfully he leaves. And it makes me think, this simply can't be your first time using a debit card, or even seeing a cashback prompt, or even entering your PIN number, right? Well, clearly I must have been wrong. Contestant number 2 walks in the front door, sees me checking someone out, and blurts out, "Are you guys open right now?" And by the way, real quick, the store I work at is famously open 24 hours a day. At that moment, I try as hard as I can not to say, "No, we're closed, I'm here for fun." But I reply with a simple yes, because he is staring at me like he wants a genuine reply to what just feels like an extremely dumb question without the context of where he is and what he sees happening around him. And right then and there, I just know that he's going to get up to the counter and be the most annoying person of all time. And yep, he starts asking me questions that I can't answer with a simple yes or no, like forcing me to talk to him in a way. We get to the checkout portion with me trying to minimize conversation as much as I possibly can, and I see him pull out his driver's license and start trying to swipe it like a credit card. And you know what? I let him do it a few more times before I finally say, "That's your driver's license." Well, he doesn't say a word. He does a full 180 turn and completely walks out of the store, leaving everything that he grabbed on the counter and doesn't come back. Now, it's not these two interactions alone. It's these types of interactions repeatedly and more frequently than you would believe that just becomes so exhausting. Like someone looking at me and blurting out, "How much does this cost?" from the other side of the store. And it's like, I don't know, you jelly-filled donut. There's probably 1,000 different items on the shelves, and each one is typically labeled. Plus, I can't even see what you're referring to. But overall, I am simply exhausted by this job, and I seriously hope I don't have to work in a place like this ever again. Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, because seriously, some customers are just like blatantly stupid. They don't know how to do anything, they don't know what they want, and if you don't give in to their demands, they just completely take it out on you. Thankfully, the people you dealt with were stupid but harmless, but trust me, when they're stupid and harmful, it quite literally will ruin your week. So hopefully you're able to find a better job than this place, because what you described sounds incredibly exhausting. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for cutting off my entire family after my brother and girlfriend accused me of something that I definitely didn't do that resulted in me being exiled from the family? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old male, and I feel like my life has been ripped apart by people who were supposed to love me the most. This all started about 6 years ago, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. I've been dating a woman that we will call Emily ever since high school. Our families were that close, and our parents were childhood friends, and we grew up together, and I thought that I would end up marrying her. We had spent nearly our entire lives side by side, going to the same schools, hanging out with the same friends, even going on family vacations together. She was my first love, and I truly believed that we were forever. Then there's my older brother, who we will call Alex. He's always been the golden child. Smart, charismatic, successful. He was my parents' favorite, but I never thought that would matter until everything fell apart. 6 years ago, Emily accused me of mistreating her in the worst possible way, if you know what I mean. And when she did this, I was completely blindsided. We had been together for years. Why would she say something like that? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then, to make matters worse, Alex stepped in, backing her up. He told our parents that he had witnessed me behaving inappropriately towards her at a party, and he claimed that he had been protecting her, and my parents just ate it up. No one believed me. I was horrified, confused, and heartbroken, but my parents didn't even ask for my side of the story. They believed Alex and Emily without any question. I was kicked out of the house within days, and the entire community turned its back on me. Emily's father, who had been like a second father to me, also cut all ties with me. I lost everything. My girlfriend, my family, my reputation. My parents told me they didn't want to see me again until I got help for something I hadn't even done. I was 18 at the time and had nowhere to go. I ended up crashing at a friend's place for a while, but emotionally, I was a wreck. I spiraled into depression and alcoholism, using anything I could to numb the pain of being abandoned and falsely accused by the people I trusted the most. For years, I struggled to move on. I changed cities, started therapy, and slowly started rebuilding my life. But the betrayal still haunted me. Dating was nearly impossible because I couldn't shake the feeling that people would turn on me, just like Emily and Alex did. My family never reached out, and I never tried to contact them either. I couldn't forgive them for kicking me out based on nothing but lies. Then, about 6 months ago, everything changed. One of Emily's old friends, who we will call Lisa, who had stopped talking to her after the fallout, reached out to me. She told me that she couldn't live with the guilt anymore and that she had something to confess. She revealed that Emily and Alex had been in love with each other for years. They had started seeing each other behind my back while we were still together, and when Emily wanted to leave me for Alex, they both came up with a false accusation as a way to force me out of the picture. Alex knew that if he backed me up, my parents would believe them without a second thought, and it worked. Emily and Alex got together immediately after I was kicked out. Now they're married, and as far as I know, they've built the perfect life, while I was left to pick up the pieces of my own. But here's where it gets even more twisted. After Lisa told me the truth, she went to my parents. She couldn't stand knowing the truth anymore, and she wanted to know that they had thrown their son away for a lie. Well, my parents were shocked. Lisa explained how Alex had manipulated Emily, how they had both set me up to be the scapegoat, and my parents reached out to me soon after, begging to meet up and talk to me. They were devastating and crying on the phone, telling me how sorry they were for not believing me. They admitted that they had been blinded by their trust in Alex and their love for Emily. Now, at first, I thought I'd feel some kind of satisfaction from finally being vindicated, but all I felt was anger. It took them 6 years to figure out the truth, and even now they wanted to fix things like nothing had happened. But the worst part about it is that they have forgiven Alex and Emily. My parents say that family is family and that what's done is done. They still love Alex and they've even welcomed Emily back into their lives. They want us all to reconcile and to put this behind us and act as if the last 6 years didn't destroy me. I haven't responded to their latest attempts to reach out, and I don't know if I can ever forgive them for what they did. They threw me out based on a lie, abandoned me when I needed them the most, and now they want me to just get over it because Alex and Emily are supposedly family. So am I the jerk for cutting off my family, even after they found out the truth about what really happened? Because right now I am so angry that I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my god, I am so sorry you went through this. Like seriously, this is insane in my opinion. Not only did you have an awful girlfriend who was cheating on you, but also she accused you of something horrifying. Like there's no excuse for that, and in my opinion there is no forgiving that. Like I would never trust my family ever again if someone did that to me and they believed them. But even on top of that, if they didn't believe me or even like begin to understand my side of things and just automatically said, no, Emily said you did this and Alex is backing her up. You're out of the family. Don't come back until you get help. Like I would never trust those people ever again. It's also equally insulting that your family is welcoming back Alex and Emily and they're just like, listen, family is family. What's done is done. We need to get over it. And it's like, dude, I've spent 6 years on my own figuring out my life because you turned your back on me. And suddenly the onus of like forgiveness is on my shoulders? Like, no, I do not think so. Because if I was in your shoes, I would not feel like these people have earned my forgiveness at all. And honestly, I don't think I could forgive them if someone did that to me, like legitimately. I would never trust them again and they would be completely out of my life. So to that end, I don't think you're the jerk at all for cutting them out of your life because they literally ruined yours. And I just don't think that's something that I could ever forgive, especially overnight. My in-laws spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just to try and live near us so that they could see their grandkid. But as a result, they completely ruined their lives, spending more money than they ever thought possible, all in some kind of effort to build a house closer to us. Here's what happened. Back in 2016, my wife and I decided to buy vacant land about 3 hours from where we live. The jobs were better there for both of us, and we were sick and tired of our hometown. We were going to save up for a few more years and build our forever home. We are only children with the only grandchild, and the grandparents were very active in our lives and the child's life. We offered them to go in with us on land and they could build a house too. My parents agreed, but the in-laws said no, because they just can't think that far ahead into the future. So we bought 5 acres with my parents. Fast forward to 2020, and we started building, and we've moved into a rental nearby. And when we did that, my in-laws freaked out. My mother-in-law starts crying that we can't take away their grandchild. They say it's unfair to move somewhere they can't afford to move to, but we remind them that it's only a 3-hour drive away, and that we gave them the chance to go in with us to make it affordable. And because they didn't go in with us, we didn't buy land zoned for 3 families. Well, a few weeks after we moved, the in-laws call us. They say that they have a plan. They're going to sell their place, which is completely paid off, and buy a small plot of land an hour away from us in the mountains. And then they're going to put a manufactured home on it. Now, this was going to be affordable because my father-in-law is a retired civil engineer and insisted that he could be his own general contractor. Well, now we had just built a house. We know what a pain in the rear end it is and how unexpectedly expensive it is. Both of the in-laws were retired, and we had recently found out that they had almost no savings. And this is all despite making low 6 figures in a low cost of living area for the last 25 years. And in fact, they were living off of Social Security. So we told them that they should keep their house that is paid off and just make the drive to see us, because this was going to be a lot more expensive than they were planning. My father-in-law showed me his budget, and it looked like it was based on building costs from the 90s. For example, our well and pump cost $25,000, but his budget is only for $5,000. When I pointed out his estimates were way too low, he got mad at me and said I overpaid. Now, my father-in-law is extremely old-fashioned and from a rural Missouri. He still goes to the store or mechanic and tries to barter for services. Well, true to form, my father-in-law found someone to buy their house for 75% of market value cash plus services. The guy was a contractor that put up fences around dairies. And honestly, I have no idea how my father-in-law thought this guy would help, but my father-in-law insisted the man was very handy. So that left them with $300,000 for this project, and trust me, this is California, so that is not a lot. They bought the mobile home for $150,000, and that included a $20,000 discount because my father-in-law insisted that he could set the home on the foundation and finish it, meaning that he would install carpets and doors and other things the company usually does, all for much less than that. But by my math, they actually had just barely made enough for electric, trenching, septic, water, foundation, finishing, grading, and permits, and the fees. My father-in-law got bids for everything, which all looked reasonable to me, but he insisted that they were way too high, so he was going to wait for the market to come down. He did take the bid for the foundation though, and ended up getting it poured. In the meantime, he bought a fifth wheel to live on the property, and my mother-in-law moved in with a neighbor and lived in their fifth wheel. My father-in-law then went on what I can only best describe as a spending spree. Anything he thought was a good deal that he could turn around and sell for more, he ended up buying. I showed up at his fifth wheel, and there was just tons of garbage all over the place. Like, here's an incomplete list of some of the things he bought. He got a used Cadillac SUV even though he already had 2 cars. He also got hay storage that goes on the back of his horse trailer. He bought 3 stoves that were open box from Lowe's, some slightly damaged cabinets from Lowe's, 300 feet of steel piping that might be used for fencing, 6 gas-powered generators, a used saddle, and tons of parts for his truck. The generators were because he refused to pay for any hookup fees because they would report him to the county and make him pay a permit, as well as school fees he was trying to avoid. So his idea was that he would constantly run generators for power. When we pointed out that they were loud, he had neighbors, and couldn't run them overnight for things like his fridge, he said to me, "I'll just push the fridge outside every night. It is pretty cold here." Well, after the mobile home arrived, he realized he needed to clear trees. He didn't want to pay a licensed contractor, so he paid someone who he met at a hardware store to do it. Well, they dropped a massive tree on the foundation, which completely shattered it. And for reasons I still do not understand, he put the mobile home on blocks over the foundation before fixing it. He was now afraid to remove any more trees, so now there is just a giant tree 3 feet in front of their front door, and the door cannot open all the way. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law also went on a shopping bender and bought all new furniture while doing nothing to help out with the actual project. All she did was complain about what my father-in-law was doing and how long it was taking. Now fast forward 2 years later, and my mother-in-law has had to move in with her sister and wants a divorce. My mother-in-law asked me for help for finishing this project so she can sell it and get her share. I meet with my father-in-law and I tell him that I'm gonna get some contractors up here just so they can finish the job. And I was then informed that they still had $90,000 in the building fund. So I called all my contractors and I got bids, and we could just barely get everything paid for except for permits and fees for that amount, because my friends were definitely cutting me a deal. I mean, they built my house and I gave them several referrals. So I asked to see the money before my friends start the project, and guess what I see? They only have $5,000 left. $5,000 from $150,000. I asked them where the money went, and my father-in-law said he spent it on the construction project. He said that he bought the special sand that you need for electrical trenching, and then he showed me the special sand. But it was all just run-of-the-mill. Someone fleeced him for it, and he had paid $6,000 for a couple cubic yards of it. The steel pipe he said was for the horse farm, and he said he met a woman at the grocery store who wanted to board up her horses somewhere and agreed to do it with him. But his zoning does not allow horses. So I just asked my mother-in-law for the bank statements on the building account for the last couple of years. I start going through it, and he was using it like a debit card. He paid for his car insurance, trips to the liquor store, as he was always drinking ungodly amounts of alcohol, or even just buying donuts. I mean, he had spent all of it. My mother-in-law was furious, but I said, "Listen, you had access to this the whole time. You could have checked what he was doing." I later called my father-in-law and I chewed him out for spending all the money on useless garbage and for wasting my contractor's time. I said, "You spent the money for your home, and now neither of you have anywhere to live." I was furious because this is a man that I care about, and now he is effectively homeless, and my mother-in-law was now living in a 1-bedroom apartment with her sister and her nephew. Well, he got mad, said none of that was true, and then stopped talking to us. He sent an email to everyone else in the family telling them that I'm a huge jerk, amongst other things. He even reached out to my wife expecting her to take his side, but she didn't. At this point, he is now estranged to us. He still lives in the fifth wheel on the lot without any kind of electricity, and every November when it gets cold, he will call us or text us or email us saying that he's ready to finish the house now, but that he needs to borrow some money. I had to go up there to get some of my mother-in-law's stuff, and it looks like a complete mess. There's bottles and cans everywhere, there's garbage everywhere, tons of weather damage to the mobile home, all because it's not sealed and finished. There's piles of junk literally everywhere, and the Cadillac is up on blocks because he wrecked it, and he's trying to fix it himself. Oh, and remember the carpet and cabinets and the doors and everything else? Well, they were never installed, and now they're just rotting in the weather. My mother-in-law still lives with her sister and has no plans for her sister when she passes passes away because she is much older and sicker. She occasionally hints at moving in with us, but that is a non-starter for a million reasons. But this entire situation is absolutely baffling, and it all could have been avoided if they simply listened to us from the very beginning. Yeah, these people are very poor at planning their lives, because seriously, this all could have been avoided. They wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be closer to someone when they could have just driven the 3 hours to see the family. Like, that is so crazy that they spent that much money for literally no reason. So yeah, your in-laws are not the smartest people in the world, because what they did to themselves was entirely preventable. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.